The Uneducated Economist here. So this is going to be a different kind of video because I am going to be talking about how it is that you can pretty much get anything you want, but yet nobody really will. Like only some people will actually get what they want in life. And when I think about what it is that most people are denying or being denied or deprived or just simply don't have in their life is due to their own thinking and being and the way that they are acting and behaving. There is nothing out there that limits you from going out and getting whatever it is that you want. Now, the hardest part about this is most people have put up blocks that prevent them from ever being able to achieve what it is that they truly want in their life. Now, the biggest problem with this, and I face this really pretty much in my life and still am trying to deal with it, is having a big ego. And that means that you really have no other way of seeing something other than this particular way. And when you do that, you have built up a wall that then prevents things from coming into your life. The more you let your ego go, the more likely you are going to attract what it is that you truly want in your life. Now, when I think about the big ego that a lot of people will have when it comes to, say, buying a house, a lot of times people will be in a position in which that they say something of the nature that it will always go up forever, or something of, unreasonable proportions, just making things up. Other people will look at that and say that you are going to lose everything that you have ever had in your life because you have bought into this. And both of these ideas are really stemmed from somewhere deep down inside you desire one of the outcomes or the other. And you have denied it in your life because your ego wants to be right. You don't have access to a house, and here's the reasons why. And you put it out there on the reasons why it doesn't occur. And then you want to prove that that is going to be the case so you can say at the end, yeah, I was right, because the ego always wants to be right. The moment you let that ego go, you don't have those subconscious beliefs. You don't have the limitations. You're not looking for the reasons why it's being limited to you. All you see is the ability to then try, to acquire, to become. See, most people don't look at it in a fashion in which that they can allow things to really come into their world. Most of the time we have a state of being in which that we have no other choice but to pursue. And we try so hard to make it happen, wondering what it is that we can do, the next step. You're ever constantly changing and trying and strategizing and all kinds of stuff to try and make it happen, only to just realize it's to no avail. It never happens. And one day you just give up. And then it showed up. It just occurred. You don't even know how it happened. You're thinking, how is it that I tried so hard before, and at the moment that it did happen, it didn't really happen the way I thought it was going to? I had played it out so many times in my mind, what it's going to be like. It's got to be this way, all these scenarios. And then when it did occur, none of those scenarios made any sense. It didn't go down like that. See, this is where most people end up facing a problem, especially like when I think about the videos that I put out talking about the housing market. It's the biggest one. So many comments in there about how it's going to crash and fail and just burn out and be bad. And I'm thinking that very well could be your true belief, that it's out there like that. But then again, you have to ask yourself, why would you want that to occur? Because the ego is telling you that's what's happening. Right? That it's going to fail and it's going to crash and burn. It's not doing that. It's going to do that. It's going to do that for why? So that you can get into the house? Is that what your ego is hoping for? That to see all these other people burn so that you'll have access to it? Because the ego would be right by then? Right? See, this is the problem that a lot of people will face, and then they'll put up the blocks. They'll be like, no, now's not the time to buy. There's, all the reasons why. Bad administration, bad interest rates, bad economy, bad job, bad stuff. Never look to the ideas of why it should be, why it could be, why you would want it that way, right? Why this is okay, why you can work around it. It's all about the meaning that you give in everything. And this is, again, like I think about my own personal experience and what I had. I was in a terrible spot. Drinking all the time. I had terrible amount of debt, had a busted down vehicle that wasn't working, had no idea what it was that I was going to do in my life. Like, that was the position that I was in at one time. And I thought about some of the things that I was thinking about. And yeah, I had a negative attitude. Negative attitude about the government, the New World Order, the banking system. I had negative attitude about all this stuff. Had all the reasons why that condition that was out there was keeping me down. I had proof. I could tell you all day long about how it was screwing me over. I mean, I was good at it. One day I had to let that go. I said, man, you're going to figure it out. You're going to just sit here and be in the gutter and lose everything? Or are you going to figure out how it is that this stuff really works? And are you going to start positioning yourself in a better way? Doesn't matter who's out there telling you can't, right? You already told yourself you couldn't, right? You weren't. I mean, I don't need anybody else to tell me I can or can't. I already told myself I couldn't. I had to give myself permission that says, yeah, I can. I can do this. I can do it in any time, anywhere, with any situation, no matter what, because I'm going to adapt to the situation the best I can. And there's nobody out there that's going to stop me from doing it. And nobody's going to tell me that you're not allowed. That's like all that stuff I let go of. I'm not going to be under somebody else's rule anymore. What it is that I want in my world, I just go and pursue it. And if I am in the mindset of I need this in my life, it doesn't work out. It never works out that way. Instead, I take on the feelings of what it would be like to have that. What it would be like to have a full-time YouTube channel going. I was thinking that from day one. The very first day I put out a video, nobody was watching it. Nobody cared to watch my channel. I put out 20 videos. Not a single person was watching them. My mom, my sister, right? My wife, a couple of friends at work. Nobody was watching my stuff. I just put out videos because I wanted to put out videos. I was using it as my own personal journal. And I thought to myself, it feels like I'm being a real YouTuber. Because I was a real YouTuber the day I started it. I just didn't know it. But the moment that I took on the feeling and didn't care about what the outcome was, I didn't think I was going to have any subscribers. I didn't care. I didn't, like, when it got to 100, I was so blown away that I had 100 subscribers that I almost deleted the channel, especially when I had a video get 1,000 views. I was like, oh, that's too much. I don't want this in my life. And I thought to myself, are you wanting to be a YouTuber or not? And so I just continued on. And I had no idea why. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have any idea that there was barriers or boundaries or expectations or things to prevent me from doing it. I didn't have any of that stuff. It didn't exist. It didn't exist in my world. I didn't have any subconscious belief of being a success or failure at it. That none of that stuff existed in my thoughts. All my thoughts was put out another video. Just what does a full-time YouTuber do? He does interviews with other people. He does collaborations. Right? What does the YouTuber do? Right? Keeps putting out videos. That's all I thought. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't think about the success. I didn't think about the failure. I didn't think about the money. Right? My whole goal on YouTube, as far as earning money, was $100 because that was the minimum threshold in order for Google to pay you. I had no idea what I was going to do after that. Right? I didn't know if it was going to make money. I didn't really care. I didn't have any plans. And so when I let it go, I didn't carry an energy with me that says, please watch my videos. Please hit the subscribe button. Please like and share and do all that. I didn't do any of that. I never once ever asked anybody to subscribe to my channel. For 100,000 subscribers, never once did I ever ask. Go back through all my videos. Never once did I ever ask you to hit the like button. Until I started doing live streams because it builds the algorithm up to go get more people to join in. That's the only reason why. You know, up until then, I never asked people to hit the like button. You know, I figured if you liked the video, you liked it, and then that would tell me that I was doing a good job. If I told every single person to do it and you were hitting the like button, how would I know if it was really a good video that I was putting out? I wouldn't. And the more I started realizing the things that you want in your life, the more you hold on to it, the harder it is for it to come into your world. The less you care, the less you worry about the outcome, the less the ego, says that it needs to be a particular way, it almost just comes right to your world. You start carrying the feelings and energies and beliefs and behaviors of that what it is that you want in your world. Yeah. That's it. It's as simple as that. I mean, if you want to be the author, what would the author do every single day? Right. You would write every single day because that's what authors do. And if you really want to write a book, right, then you better be writing every day. Because if you're not writing every day, then you can't be an author. That's all there is to it. So what would an author do? What would an author behave like? Anybody, anything at all. Doesn't matter what it is, right? It's all the same thing. It's the energies, beliefs, and feelings and behaviors that you are doing. And your subconscious of what it is that your ego is telling you the way that it needs to be is very well denying you from the ability to acquire that what it is that you want. It's seriously that easy. See, I hardly graduated high school. Like, you hear me stutter through these speeches. I mispronounce words. I can't even figure out what some things say, right? Then when I do, I can't even hardly say them sometimes. But yeah, here I am out here on YouTube, right? Talking about high-level macroeconomic stuff. There is no boundaries. There is no limitations. There's nothing out there that's preventing you from doing whatever it is that you want. There is no limitations. The only people who are limited are the ones who believe it that they are. Everybody else, they are limitless. And I know this to be the fact. I know it to be the case because I've experienced myself. And not understanding what it was that I was going through, I had to essentially reverse engineer it all to say, okay, what was going on here? Why is it that this, all of a sudden it felt like something had a hold of me and was shoving me forward, like I have no other choice. I don't have any choice. What? I don't get it, And I realized, what it is that was changing about my entire world was the fact that I had changed the way it was that I was thinking and behaving and acting and feeling and doing. And it doesn't happen right away. It takes time for this to align. And all the time, it's a constant shift into alignment of what it is that is going on within your worlds and thoughts. It's simply that easy. It is not difficult, but it is hard to then break that idea that I need to change the way that it is that have conditioned myself to be. That is the most difficult part. Most people won't ever see it in themselves. They don't think that they think differently. They're wrong, right? They know they think differently. Everybody thinks differently, but they don't think that they think wrong. Nobody does. No matter who you are, right? You will never think that you are thinking wrong. But then you also have to understand, why is it that I don't have some of the things in my world that I see other people so easily get? Money is not denied to you. You deny money to you. That's literally what it goes down like. The things that you do in your life, you deny money to you. It's just a natural, it's just a thing. It's not natural in the sense that it should exist in nature. It's natural in the existence that humans deal with it in that way. And knowing that it's nothing but abundance of money that flies around everywhere, think about what it is that you are doing to deny yourself that. Think about some of the thoughts. I don't have this in my life because of the administration, because of the conditions of the banking system, because of all this stuff. You put all these limitations. Every single one of those things need to be knocked down. And how do you do that when you have done it you have researched and committed yourself to the thought that, man, it's their fault? How do you break that? Right? You have to let it go. You have to say, maybe it's not. Maybe it's my fault for not doing what it is that I truly needed to do to be like some of the other people out there who are doing exactly what it is that I want to do. What are they doing that I'm doing differently? Are they talking about how the New World Order is going to destroy their entire world and how it is that they are going to be denied everything in their entire life? I mean, maybe some of them are. Are they living that existence? Or are they putting that information out to get views? Because I bet you every single day they're living a life of luxury. If they have that money, they're enjoying it, right? But yet, here you are thinking the same thing that they're putting out there. But what are you doing with your life? Are you enjoying those luxuries like they get to enjoy them? You see the difference that's happening here? Do you think that they really sit around wondering how it is that they are going to lose every single bit of things that they have in their entire life? Or are they sitting there thinking about how it is that they can generate more money? And maybe by pushing out propagandized information, they can make some money at this. We all make money doing something. This stuff is not that hard. It's really not. I look out there. I live in one of the most expensive towns in the nation. Right? Astoria, Oregon, 10,000 to 50,000 people. Those cities, Oregon is in the top 10. It's like number 10. Or not Oregon, Astoria, the town that I live in. Right? When it comes to having a hard existence from having a 9 to 5 job, no education, trying to figure out how it is that I'm going to make it in this world, and people are telling me, man, you don't know how hard it is out there? Really? Right? You don't think I know? I mean, come on, right? It's not like I'm out there pushing sponsorships and making, $50,000 a month off of my YouTube channel, which I could do. I don't feel good about that. That's not the information that I want to put out there. That's not the way I started this channel. It's not the reason why I started this channel. I started this channel because I wanted to grow. I wanted to be somebody who was going to understand the economy and could share my thoughts and understandings of it with other people who then would find that helpful and useful. That was my goals. And because of that, I was rewarded. I don't need to go pursue anything. It's natural. It just naturally flows. And if I needed more of it, it'll show up. I don't think about it. Okay? I don't make a ton of money off of it, but I can pay any bill I want. You know how cool that is? There was a time in my life that's the only thing I ever wanted. It's just to be able to pay my bills on time. Couldn't do it. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't do it. Now I can do that. That's the best feeling in the world. Like, to me, that's so much better. Like, people are like, what about $1 million? And I'm like, who cares about $1 million? I can pay my bills on time, bro. Haha. Right? This is the difference that most people don't get, man. It's just like, it isn't a matter of like how much money you make. Like, what are you going to do with all that money? You're just going to go and live a life of luxury? You're just going to go pursue pleasure? Is that growing as a person? Does money make you grow? Like, I mean, I understand if you get money and then you use it to actually create more business, and that's you growing, man. Yeah, okay, you're using it. But to me, what am I going to do, man? If I had a bunch of money, I might, travel a little bit more or something, eat nicer, eat more sushi. Like, I don't know what I would do with more money. I just wanted to pay my bills on time and put out content. I'm totally living that life, right? Will it progress into something more? I hope so. Yeah, I'm hoping to be the author. I love to see what that happens from daily writing every single day to put a book out. All right, let's move on here. We got 18 minutes into this one. All right, so many comments. Good evening from Lakeland, Florida. Hey, great to see you, Kevin. All right, hey, we got, hey, people, Joshua. All right, growing life organic. My only expenditure is on poontang. Well, yeah, we all got our thing. Hi, y'all. You can do anything you want to. All you have to do is meet the qualifications. Whatever. The qualifications for what? Like, I mean, people ask me all the time. It's just like, man, how do I get a YouTube channel started? Or, man, what did you do to get a YouTube channel started? And I was just like, dude, you can start one. All you have to do is literally put out a video today. Right? That's it. And nobody does it. Right? Nobody, I mean, a bunch of people. Right? So you don't need to meet any qualifications, right? You don't need any qualifications for a YouTube channel. I mean, what is it that you want to do? Then yeah, go meet those qualifications and do it. Start being that life. Buying land, going to build my house. Well, good for you, David. Ego. Yeah. Ego is strong. All right. Also, fully agree. Abundance brings abundance. The universe loves the irony of giving you what you want after you decide you don't need it. Yeah, and it's really great. Like, the moment that you just don't, like, there was a time like I wanted a new car. God, I wanted a new car. I hadn't, like, all my vehicles were busted down. They were just horrible. And I just, like, wondered how in the world does anybody have and afford a new car? And then I just dreamed of having that new car. Well, I gotta drive, I'm broke ass, right? So I'm driving $500 Toyota Corolla and, cheap ass truck and stuff like that. And it got to a point where I was like, wait a minute, I could buy any car I want. Buying no car. You know how expensive cars are? What a worthless thing to go buy. Like, this is now my attitude. I would love to drive the Camaro, but I ain't buying no Camaro. Not yet, you know? I mean, I would have to make a whole lot more money than I do before I go out and buy the Camaro, especially when I got 3 running vehicles. You know, it's funny. I did a video that is most popular on my channel. It's called Wanna Be Rich, Drive a POS Beater. And that video has now earned enough money to pay for all my vehicles, all 3 of my cars, and it has gone viral again and has earned enough this month to pay for the insurance on all my vehicles, including my wife's, which is full coverage. Now that's pretty cool, right? I mean, think about the universe providing the ability to drive and giving me the ability to invest not only in the Bitcoin and stocks and all this other stuff because I'm not making payments. And then look what it's also done. It's continuing to provide me with the ability to pay the insurance. And now it doesn't cost me, like, I don't have to work for that money. I worked for it a long time ago and it's still paying today. I couldn't believe it when I saw the revenue on that one this month. I was just like, I knew it was popular. I kept seeing it bounce. And I thought to myself, man, I wonder how much that earned. And I went and looked and I was like, man, that's about what my insurance cost. I couldn't believe it. That video is the coolest video as far as like paying for everything, as far as my traveling expenses on a daily basis. Right? I mean, that's the universe providing. That's like letting go of a new car and thinking, okay, I'm just going to invest that money, not only putting like that energy out there in the video and everything else. Look at what it's falling back to me like. Let's cruise down here to the bottom. We got a $10 super chat somewhere up in there. There it is. Bravo Zulu. I like the name. $10. Thank you so much, man. You're an inspiration to us all. Keep going. Well, thank you, Bravo Zulu. I really appreciate the $10 and the support for the channel, man. You guys are awesome. All right. Once these jobs dry up, the only way to generate income will be with investing. Well, Andrew, I mean, I agree that there's, investing is going to be one of the best ways to separate yourself from the rich from the poor, because again, like, I've said it so many times now, I'm just come down to the conclusion that it's going to be the capitalists and the property owners who are going to separate themselves from everybody else. Generational wealth, that's, however it is that you acquire that, but most of us don't really have that in mind. So it's going to be you figuring out how it is that you become a property owner or a capitalist or something of that nature, because everybody else is going to be dependent upon the state, the government, the capitalists and the property owners. They're going to be dependent upon them. And it's just the unfortunate circumstances that we now find ourselves in. There's no way out of it. But with that being said, going back to the jobs drying up and then that be the only thing, I don't believe that. I think that you have skills within your abilities to go out there and figure out ways of making money, generating some sort of revenue somehow, and you're not going to have to necessarily dependent on investing. I mean, I guess it's going to take some sort of investing of time, maybe a little of investing of money in order to get something started. But as far as like trying to have a bunch of money and then use that to invest, to try and have a living that comes from investing and being an investor of that nature, I don't see that being very feasible for most people. Investing is daily investing, day trading kind of investing is very difficult. There's some people who are pretty good at it, but most people just lose their ass. All right. Camaro with the spoiler. No, actually, guys, I do have a sports car in mind. The buddy of mine who like loves working on cars, he has a pretty cool car that he's wanting to sell, and depending on the price, if it's right, I might end up buying that one for the weekend cruiser as opposed to going out and buying a Camaro. And it's a pretty cool car. Like, if I get it, I'll show it to you guys, but I don't want to ruin the outcome. So I'm just going to let that idea go right now, but I would love to get that. It would be fun to drive. Sarah and I would be way cool. Just imagine the OnlyFans content revenue. I would make so much money on OnlyFans. Okay. Any good lumber stocks? Okay, lumber is... people ask me all the time, man, how do I make money off of the lumber futures move and stuff like that? I don't know. right? I had a broker contact me one time and he was like, dude, I'm a commodities guy, trader and stuff. He says, I made a bunch of money off of your information. That was really great. Sent me a PayPal for $100. The dude was super cool. And because I told him, I was like, man, I wish I knew how to do that, right? Now, there's some ETFs out there. Just go and research them yourself. Go, and I try to tell people to go and research. I don't want to give you names because I don't buy into this stuff. I don't track them. I don't know if it's a good or bad buy. I just follow lumber from what I truly think I feel is taking place within the lumber industry with no idea or expectations that I'm going to be making money off of the move, right? Like this is truly my honest belief of what has taken place with no bias included into it. I mean, I do work at a lumber yard, so I do want to see lumber at least move up a little bit and more people buying it, right? Like that would be an honest statement. But as far as like what's going on with the lumber futures up, down, or sideways, I could really care less. I'm going to tell you what it is that I feel that's going on within it. Now, with that being said, just Google, lumber stock ETFs, builder ETFs, building supply ETFs. There's combinations of these things. There's ones that are leveraged up 3 times. They are, one of them I had mentioned on my channel before. I'm glad I had mentioned it at the time that I did, because people who did go out there and buy it at the time, which I did not try to get people to do. I didn't, in fact, after I said it, I felt bad about it because I was like, that's not what I'm doing with this channel. Don't do that. But I'm glad to see that it did dramatically rise right after that. And so, take the information for what it is and go do your own research is the only thing I can say. New vehicles are a complete waste. Yeah, I totally agree. This is the one that I'm thinking about buying for my weekend kind of cruising vehicle it's an older vehicle, but it's in really, really nice shape and it has very low miles on it. And like I said, my buddy who works on cars, he goes through them like that's his thing. Like he just loves working on. He has a bunch of cars too. He hates my videos when I talk about it, but it's his hobby and he has all kinds of really, really nice stuff. Do we have the Economic Ninja on? Hey, right on. Yo, man, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. You guys, that is awesome, man. It's great to see you. It's been a while. We had met and hung out there a little bit over at the Silver Symposium, and that was a really cool trip. So, man, it's great to see you up here on the channel tonight. All right. People are asking 10K plus for trucks with 180,000 miles. Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I mean, I think that's probably going to end up changing a lot on the used car business of stuff, but it is kind of outrageous what a lot of people were asking for their used vehicles. Like, I just can't see it. Like, I drive a $500 Toyota Corolla, $1,200 S10. My parents gave me this Explorer when they went and got some new vehicles. So this was like a third vehicle that they had for a while. And they were like, hey, we're just going to get rid of it. You want it? I needed to throw about $1,000 into it to get it running right and, get it all. There was like, anyway, rats had torn into the wiring and stuff like that. So it runs great now. It had low miles on it, right? So altogether, like all my vehicles cost me $2,700, right? For all 3 of my vehicles. I pay insurance on all of them, but you know what's funny about that is that if you have secondary vehicles that are part-time drivers, the insurance on them on a liability on that is like almost nothing. It's like $20 a month or something like that. So I don't really pay that much to insure all 3 vehicles. And yeah, like I need to really just get rid of the Toyota. I just don't drive it around that much, or just start making videos back in it again. That's what I really should do, is do videos out of a Toyota. All right, let's cruise on. What else? Let's talk about economics or something. All right, coming, or whatever you want, I guess. All right, coming soon. Cash for clunkers, yeah? The Ninja. He's trolling for free beer. What? All right. When it comes to owning property, should I go for houses or apartments? I'm about 6 to 8 months from making a purchase. I mean, honestly, man, that's again, I think that's your own personal choice on what it is that you would want in your life. Like, I went for a house because I'm trying to raise a family. Are you going to try and raise a family, or is it just you? I mean, that's a huge difference on which one of those things you would buy. Now, if it was me personally and I was young and I was single and I had the money to buy either a house or an apartment, I would so buy an apartment. I would buy an apartment complex way ahead of I would be buying a house. And then I would live on that property and rent out all the apartments as best I could. Maybe live in one of them if I needed to. But if I could just buy as many rental, like many different rental door, like as many doors as possible, right? And that's really the direction that I would go. But if you want a family, then that's going to be different, right? Because you want to raise your family in a nice place. That was one of the things that was really important to me. See, like, here's again, like, let's go back into letting stuff go, right? I had let go of the idea of buying a house and I was forced into doing it. Like, I literally felt forced into buying this house. Now, deep down inside, I wanted a house, just like everybody does, right? I didn't, like, I had a foreclosure in my past. I didn't think I would ever, be able to get out of the gutter. I was never thought I would be in a position in which that I would even have a chance to get into a house. And when the time was coming for me to be like, here's the decision. Now you have to decide whether or not you're going to be buying a house. I felt like it was in the worst possible condition it could ever have been in, and I didn't want it. Like, I was like, I don't want to buy a house. Like, not only did I let it go, like let go of the idea of buying a house, but then I was actively trying to prevent it from taking place. Right? In fact, think about it. Like, I wanted to rent. I built up negative energy in the idea of actually acquiring what it is that I wanted. I wanted to rent, and it wouldn't let me. Right? The universe was resisting providing me with what it is that I wanted. I didn't want the house. I let it go. And what was happening? The universe was shoving this house into my direction. It was like, you don't have any other choice, bro. Right? Because deep down inside, that's really what I wanted. Because the subconscious was actually doing things that then put the steps that occurred into buying a house. See, all the things that you would do in order to buy a house, I was doing that. Like, if I didn't want to buy a house, I wouldn't have been getting out of debt. If I didn't want to buy a house, I wouldn't have been saving up as much cash as I could for a down payment. If I didn't want to buy a house, I wouldn't have been positioned in a way that I'd actually give me the ability to buy a house. Subconsciously, I knew it, right? But my ego wouldn't let it go. And look what the universe did, right? See, now, the more I understand that, the more I understood that actually wanting something was building up resistance, and it was a negative. The entire thing was a negative thing. No wonder why it didn't happen. Right? All the negativity that came from it was not producing an outcome that was desirable. Having let go of the idea was the desirable outcome. It was the positive. No matter how much I tried to hold on to my ego, my big ego, right? It wasn't big enough. And now I understand that. I understand that having let go of the idea of actually being in a house or owning a home is what gave me the ability to actually acquire one. It's the same thing no matter what's out there, right? Let go of the idea of being the author, book writer, creator of the courses, and just start doing the things that those people would be doing. It's not an idea of becoming that, it's a matter of being that. The subconscious is preventing you. You got all these limitations. I can't do it until this happens, that happens, those things go on. No, that's not the case. It starts today, here and now. Are you it or are you not? The moment that you start doing it, you are it. The day I started this YouTube channel was the day it was it. That was the day it started. I didn't know it was going to be this, right? But if I didn't start it that day, it wouldn't be here today. I started being the YouTuber the day I put out that first video. All right, let's cruise on down here. Hey, welcome, ESS2586. Well, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. We are going to cover Michelle Bowman's recent, statements. It wasn't really even a speech, and it's really not that far off from from what she had been saying in the media. I was hoping that there would be another speech that came out that we could kind of combine, but we're going to do a members only. I'm going to try and do it. Let's see, what is today? Tuesday, maybe on Thursday. And I'll put out a notification before we do that. So members only, program, $1 a month, right? I have all kinds of member only videos where we have broken down massive amounts of Fed speeches that go over all the monetary policies, start talking about the credible threat theories and breaking down Bretton Woods or not Bretton Woods, I'm sorry, guys. I was reading about that earlier. Breaking down the Basel III endgame and what it is that the Federal Reserve was like communicating about tailoring program. Very much so. Like when that actually all occurred here last month, like I was not very alarmed by anything that was taking place within that stuff, because really Michelle Bowman had covered that pretty well inside of a Fed speech. And those are the things that we cover. I mean, it's deep stuff. It's hard. It's like, it's the deep end of the pool. But when we break it down in a way that we can understand it so that we can have the conversation. And if you're new to understanding or trying to figure out what's going on within the monetary policy or within economics, it's very difficult to try and figure this stuff out. This is where this community is really growing in popularity, is that I have as much as like Cody, who from Australia, 13 years old, he has become a member of the channel. He's involved with a lot of the videos as far as the communications and conversations that are taking place. And again, he's 13 years old trying to figure this stuff out. So we have a huge community here on the Uneducated Economist, and those member only videos, they're second to none, really. All right, moving on. I'm surprised they lowered interest rates. I'm not surprised by it. What I am surprised by is that more people aren't discussing that. You're starting to find it a lot more out there, so I shouldn't say that it isn't taking place, because there is a lot of people. The communication about the interest rate cuts and how impactful that is really where I think a lot of people are starting to focus, right? They're starting to see that their communication has more power than the actual rate cuts. Because you think about it, what has rate cuts done? Nothing at all. They're not going to do anything for at least another 6 months. Maybe a little less than that, but really there's a lag time from the time they cut interest rates till the time it actually impacts the economy in any kind of meaningful way. And considering that we're still dramatically above the neutral interest rate, there is no stimulating effect coming from interest rate cuts. What it's doing is it's making it less restrictive. And then also, when you consider that the neutral interest rate could be falling, when the Federal Reserve cuts the interest rate, they may just be keeping in lockstep with the neutral interest rate, trying to keep the resistance the same, right? Because again, they're above the neutral interest rate, which is being a restrictive economy, right? Or restrictive monetary policy. But if the neutral interest rate is falling, well, that's making it ever increasingly more restrictive. So if the Federal Reserve follows the neutral interest rate down with interest rate cuts, they're not really causing anything different to the economy than what we had experienced already, right? It's literally like standing still. Right? It doesn't do anything. But people's perception of that is much different, right? Because people don't think about the neutral interest rate and how that's, nobody thinks about the neutral interest rate. You're finding a little bit more communication about that too, because it's becoming more important. Right? All right, Hansel, thank you very much for joining the channel. Please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jim. I appreciate you, man. All right. Dollar cost average. Yeah, here's the thing. I wanted to say this too. I was going through, a lot of you know that I was doing a bit of an experiment about 4 years ago, where I was buying $50 a month in Bitcoin, and then I was buying $50 a month in different positions within a stock portfolio. I had like 4 positions that I think I had started with, or maybe even 3. I think it might have even just been 3. I was buying Altria. I was buying the Russell Vanguard ETF, the Vanguard ETF, Russell 1000 Growth Stock, and the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. So those were the three positions, and it was just an experiment just to see what would happen with Bitcoin versus stocks. Now, what ended up happening is I kept adding more stocks to my portfolio. So I ended up investing quite a bit more into the stock portfolio than I did into Bitcoin. But here's the funny part about it is that I was just looking at this particular, and I was using Cash App for all this. So I'm looking at my Cash App and I'm looking at how much I had had purchased in Bitcoin, and it was about $4,700, right? Dollar cost averaging over the last 4 years. Now that position is sitting at $9,000, right? So it's gone up about $4,000, a little over $4,300, right? That position has moved up. Awesome, right? I mean, it was just like totally unexpected. Didn't think it would be there like that, but there it is. Okay. Stock portfolio, a couple of positions did incredibly well. I have Coinbase, which has actually gone up 100%. I put $900 into it, and it's sitting at $1,800 right now. So I've doubled my money in Coinbase, dollar cost averaging for like 2 years in that. The Vanguard and ETFs, the Russell 1000 and the total stock market ETF, have both done about $400 to $500, and the same thing with Altria. It's done about I think it's about $400 right now. Again, dollar cost averaging. I had put $7,200 total into the stock market over the same period that I had put $4,500 or $4,700 into Bitcoin. The stock portfolio is about $10,000 right now. So I've made about 23. I think it was, if I checked it right, it was somewhere around 23 to, no, 27. I'm sorry. It's made about $2,700, right? Over the course of 4 years, dollar cost averaging into it, where Bitcoin had gone up 43, right? Or whatever it was. I think it was 43. It was pretty close to that. So Bitcoin totally kicked the shit out of the stock market the entire time, like easily. And I can't find anything else that I had done except for maybe the house that had performed as well, right? Because even like a lot of people tell me that the house value isn't what I say it is. I don't, whatever, man. I don't care. I owe my next payment. I will be under $400,000 on my house that had gone for close to $500,000. So that's like the situation that most of the homes in my area are. Again, I live in the most expensive city in the country with populations 10 to 50,000 people in it. But that's what I've done over the last few years. Now, I know a lot of people ask all the time. It was just like, dude, you haven't done anything. Listen to this guy. He's a fool. He's not doing anything. He's not making any money. I totally disagree. I mean, I don't know if I'm killing it like a lot of people say I should be killing it, but I don't know what that would mean considering that I can pay my bills on time. And that's the only thing I ever really wanted in my life. So I think I'm killing it. Like, I mean, like maybe my subconscious is limiting me from going out there and making more money. But then again, I don't even know what I would do with more money, even if I had it. So other than doing, and that's what I'm doing, it's just like, I don't see any limitations in my life. So I don't know what it is that I would be doing that for. All right, moving on. Don't talk to Luther if he gives you a hard time. It's okay if you don't talk to Luther. It's fine. He gives me a hard time all the time too, so I don't read his comments. Let's see here. Race, we'll see. 456 quickly puts are too expensive, though. I like hold stock shorts. Deja vu. There was a medical stock on Canadian Stock Exchange and no U.S. broker could access it. Investing is simple. Focus on attitude and behavior. Glad there isn't bots in the chat referring those weird brokers. Yeah, well, I got a couple of the best moderators that you could ever have, so they keep, a sharp eye on the comments. And yeah, there's no spamming allowed. All right. What state are you in, senor? I am in Astoria, Oregon. For funds, I need semi-liquid. I buy CDs from my credit union. Interest between 4.5% and 5%, better than 1% sitting in savings or zero. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't really have a whole lot in savings itself. I have some like savings for like emergency kind of purposes, or paying bills or whatever. But I don't have a whole lot. Like, almost all my money gets converted. Well, I mean, all my money, like, I have that much. But I mean, huge house payment. I got bills, and then I buy, like, I try to buy regularly. I try to buy stocks in Bitcoin, like, as much as I can, even if it's just $50 a week, $50 a month. Like, that's how I do it. It's just little bits all the time. All right. Bitcoin isn't investing. You're right. It's simply your savings account. Your purchasing power goes up over time. Yeah, I mean, it's a speculation, straight up. I don't look at it as an investing. I use the term investing because of just by accident talking, but I totally don't see it as an investment. Investments are things that pay you. That's the important thing to understand. Investing in a business does business, it pays you, right? Investing in dividend paying stocks or the stock market is kind of like investing in businesses, and the dividends pay you. Investing in rental properties, because the rents pay you, right? Everything is paying you. There's like assets that pay you and have yield to them. Gold, Bitcoin, stuff like that. That doesn't have any like yield to it. It's just what they refer to as a dumb asset. It just sits there, and you're hoping to sell it to a person for a higher price. The greater fool theory, right? And so, yeah, I totally get it. But that's okay. Like, it's not like you're saying the greater fool. Has a lot of people get upset by that, because thinking, like, they were a fool to buying it in the first place. That's not it at all, right? It's just understanding that's the investment term for it when it comes to a dumb asset, one that doesn't pay you, right? It's not being stupid. Right? That's not it at all, right? But there's money that goes into a position in which that then has a return on a regular basis to you. Right? Those are profit yielding assets. Well, the asset of just moving up in price, I think, is an awesome insurance policy to get away from the third party. And there's really no better way of looking at an insurance policy that gets away from the third party than to look at silver and gold. Like, to me, they're the ultimate way. There's nobody you're reliant on in order to protect it, to get the value out of it. You don't have to worry about an app or a phone call or anything like that. It's all you. All right, let's talk about how stock is just paper. Well, okay. I mean, do you want to internalize it as just paper, or do you want to internalize it as something that you can put your money towards that will have a cash flow back to you? I mean, which way do you want to look at it? I could look at dollars as just paper. They're worthless, okay? Now, I can give it that nature, that meaning, right? It says, you're a worthless piece of paper. You horrible, worthless piece of paper, right? Now, the subconscious is going to be like, okay, you don't like paper, right? You don't like that money. You don't like anything in your world to have money involved, flowing around you or any of that stuff, right? Because paper's bad, ugly. Well, yeah, the universe is going to agree with you and then provide you with that world, right? Same thing with stocks. Are they just paper, or is a house, just, a place that you can rent no matter what? If you have a mortgage or taxes to pay or something like that, you never truly own it. Is that all it is? Or is it something that you have access to as far as an asset that you can then profit with? I mean, if you don't own it but you can sell it, like, how does that work? I mean, if you can sell it, you must own it. What part do you own? You own the ability to profit with it. That's pretty cool. Houses are valuable in that sense. So if you want to give it a meaning that says, hey, you're just, you're signing yourself up for, constant payments and being under the government rule and all this other stuff, and you take on those subconscious beliefs and then look at the administration as being more punishing to you, then think about the world that you're going to live. It's going to be a disastrous place. I don't even consider any of that stuff. Like, no, like, I could care less who's going to be president right now. Like, I really can. It's just like, okay, who's president? Fine. Now I know. I don't care. I'm going to figure out what it is that's going on in this world, because I don't think that they have that much power over it anyway. and I'm going to conduct myself accordingly. And that's all there is to it. I don't really care who's there. People are like, oh, you're going to see a world of hurt. No, like, no, you're going to see a world of hurt. I don't do that. Like, I don't like condition my world to be in a world of hurt on account of an administration. That's other people's problems. That's the way they've conditioned themselves. Right? That's their subconscious understandings and beliefs in what it is that they got going on. Not me. I had to look at it and say, okay, yeah, it's not the greatest place in the world. I can see that part, but that's okay. Hey, I mean, nothing's fair. Life isn't fair. You know, nothing's going to be the way I want it to be. I mean, my ego tells me it should be way different than this. But nah, it's okay. Whatever. I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to figure out what it is that I need to do that's going to be the most appropriate for me. Right? Because nobody else knows what I need in my life except for me. And there's no way that there's going to be somebody out there who says you're going to be in a world of hurt because he doesn't know what I got going on in my life either. You know, so I'm not going to be in a world of hurt. I'm going to be in a world of pleasure and fun and experiencing what it's like to be able to pay my bills on time. That's it. Everything else is gravy. And, you know, I would consider selling my home for gold, nothing less. No, yeah. I mean, you can sell your home and buy gold. It'd be the same thing. Let's see here. The trouble with Bitcoin is getting cashed out. I mean, I guess if you take that on, like, I mean, I use Coinbase, I have Cash App. I mean, you know, PayPal and Venmo both do cryptocurrencies. Now, I understand that those off ramps can be turned off right now. Okay. I have some pretty concern over that, but not really. I don't care. That, like, my care about that is really low. Like, I'm not concerned. That's what I care. I'm not concerned. That's what I should say, right? My concern level of that is very low. Now, I already have my insurance policy that's away from the third party claim. I don't need, I mean, I guess I could do a redundant, and I guess I have a little bit, like sitting, like I have a coin that was given to me that has some Bitcoin on it. I could load that coin up and then it would be like a physical Bitcoin. I would have the private key underneath it, and this would be like in my safe, and like I could load up all my Bitcoin onto that private wallet and be out of the third party, right? And say like, you know, it's there. But like, I'm already away from the third party claim. I don't need to do that again. Like, it could be a redundant thing that I could partially do it. I'm not worried about it. I have it at a couple of locations. And I have some at Coinbase. I have some at Cash App. I have a little bit of PayPal, a little bit of Venmo. I don't trust any of these people, not one little bit. But I don't necessarily think that they're all going to take it all from me at the exact same time. Like, if one of them happens to shut down for whatever particular reason, okay, maybe I don't have access to those particular funds for the time that they are shut down for whatever reason it is. And most likely, I'm not going to lose my Bitcoin to illegal activity because I don't do illegal things, all right? So I'm not too worried about any of that stuff. Like, very little concern. People ask me all the time, are you keeping your money in the bank? Well, yeah, I keep my money in the bank. Where else are you going to keep it? You know, I mean, I got a little bit in my wallet, but, you know, not much, you know, enough to buy a tank of gas, I guess, but most of it's sitting in the bank because I don't, like, why would I not have it in the bank? You know, it doesn't make any sense. I don't have that much, right? And it's not all in one bank. I got multiple banks because, you know, occasionally there's something happens where you don't, like the bank, you know, debit card doesn't work for whatever reason. I got another one. Zip. Yeah, no problems. So my concern, like, I don't concern myself with things that are out of my control. Like, I can't, like, I protected myself from the third party claim. Am I going to protect everything I have to make sure that there is no third party access? Like, everything is away from, I have 100% control of 100% of everything I have with no trust for anybody. You know, it's just like, oh, that's not going to work out too well, is it? You know, I mean, got to pay bills, got to cash checks. People like to tip you through using PayPal and Cash App and all this other stuff. You know, you kind of have to expose yourself in that way. But understanding what it is and then knowing that, hey, you know, I can position myself in a way that doesn't expose myself to all that stuff and then let it all go, all right? And then go for whatever it is you have in your world that you need. Fees suck though, Simon. Even the coin dealers, if you sell in bulk, you get more. If you sell pieces at time, you get less. Why? Well, everybody has to make money. Like, everybody has to make money. I had a guy call, like, no, like, saying this and doesn't have anything really to do with the comment, but it just kind of popped up into my head because I had a guy call me asking me for metal prices. Now, for lack of a better term, pole barn metal, 3 foot wide, uh, siding metal. A lot of times you'll see it on commercial buildings, agricultural buildings. Some people will use it for residential, but for the most part, it's used for like sheds or outbuildings or barns or something of that nature. So anyway, this he's kind of a younger guy, and I can tell he's kind of eager, and he's looking for this particular metal. And he says to me, he goes, yeah, they won't give me a price. And I said, well, who won't give you a price? He says, the company, the company I called, the supplier. And I'm like, well, who, like, I don't understand, man. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of suppliers of this stuff. Why wouldn't, like, I mean, he calls me up saying, hey, man, do you sell metal? And I said, yeah, of course. And he says, great. The last people I called wouldn't give me a price. They said I had to call you. And I'm like, who wouldn't give you a price, man? We all will give you a price. And I get it. Well, he's calling my vendor. Like, he got a hold of the number and called my vendor, and then like vendor was like, yeah, you got to go call one of the distributors, right? You got to call a retailer out there and go get your metal. We're we're the vendor, we're the distributor to that retailer. You got to call a retailer and get a hold of it. Well, this guy had no understanding of how that worked. And he was just like, so what? I got to pay you, a middleman, for this metal? And I'm like, I'm a store, bro. Like, that's how it works. We buy stuff from in bulk from other people on a regular basis. We get a better price, we mark it up, and we sell it to you. You're only going to buy one project from that dude, but I'm going to buy hundreds of, if not thousand products from this guy. Yeah? And so it was just like I had to explain that to him, and I didn't mean to get like, kind of snooty with him or anything, or, be cocky sounding for him. But he just didn't seem to understand that, how the distribution network seemed to work through all that. And he was just like, I just don't understand how come I have to pay you when I could just pay them. And I said, and I had to finally explain it to him one last time. And I'm like, if you want to go and get the metal in a bulk fashion, then why don't you go and offer the guy 100,000-foot purchase, and I'm sure he will sell it to you. Right. And then he was like, well, what am I supposed to do with all that? Exactly. Right. So you have to understand this is the way that it goes through, and we're all going to make money at it. Every single one of us. I buy tons of that stuff off of this guy. He's going to sell it to me because I'm a retailer distributor of his product. And this is the way it works. It's the way all of it works. Now, a lot of this has now been circumvented or gone around by using Amazon and all these major distributors and all this other stuff. It's making people like me lose my job, right? So there's people out there who are working retail space who every single day are going to lose it to this different type of distribution that is now taking place. Things like metal is going to be very hard to distribute in that fashion. Right? It will eventually get there where there will be it will be right from the factory right out to the owner, the end user of that nature. And I can see it taking place. Like, even for example, here, hardware. A lot of people know the building hardware Simpson, right? Simpson Hardware now has a portal that we use. We used to have a catalog. We had distributors, right? So we would call up different vendors of Simpson Hardware, and we would order our different hardware for our store, for our stocking needs, the special orders, stuff like that. Very typical of many products that are out there. Now, it's changed. They've removed all the vendors. I don't call anybody. I go to my computer. I fire up my portal on my computer, which is, just a website. I put in my order, right? And then it gets shipped to me UPS. Now, I have essentially no more position. It's gone. It's only a matter of time before the end user orders it, right? I have, other than the person coming to me saying, hey, I need this, 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 and this, right? I really don't serve any other purpose other than maybe helping them identify what it is that they really need. But other than that, if they know what they want, I serve very little purpose, right? I mean, because it could go right to the mail comes to me, but it could go right to them. And so this is happening with windows, this is happening with doors, this is happening with Simpson Hardware, this is happening with a lot of distributors out there. Like, I can see it. It's literally like the self-checkout coming to the grocery store that eliminates the cashiers. Same thing, right? And this is occurring, right? I mean, like, I can see it taking place. Old Dare Slayer, Old Dare Slayer. You ought to get with All Nighter Hider. All right, $1.99. Thank you so much. What does that say? Tamination? Tarnation? I don't know what that word is. Tarnation? What in tarnation? Isn't I don't know what is. Hey, look at, we got Cody up in the house. Right on, man. See, Cody's the young man from Australia, right? Is it Australia? I'm pretty sure you said Australia. Who who is really, like, he is breaking this stuff down and is big into silver. He does he's really like promoting the idea of being a silver holder and buyer, investor, silver stocks, silver miners. I would imagine is probably much on his list. All right, what do we got here? Andrew, why don't banks offer better returns on savings and checking accounts? Like, they offer places that you can put your money that gets a return. Like, I mean, just because they don't put it in the bank, in the savings or checking account, I don't know why they don't offer them there. It's probably because those are too revolving. They want you to keep your money there for at least a minute, I mean, so I would imagine that they're going to offer better return in places where they want you to actually stash your money and keep it there for a minute. And checking accounts and generally even savings accounts really don't do that very much. Producers for oil have been trading WTI between 70 and 76 for months, and gold producers are net short as their last filing. Larry is missed. Yeah, where is he? Larry been lurking. All right, kind of need to look into SAP and like MES. These are the software programs for supply chain through processing to distributor. They are doing blockchain, have crypto too. Yeah. And see, like, I understand, like, what's happening. It's going to be difficult to get rid of, say, a lumber yard itself, because it's hard to, like, distribute lumber in an efficient manner to people. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. To distribute lumber to people in an efficient manner if you don't have a local lumber yard, right? I mean, it's bulky. It's not that, like, you don't make that much money off of lumber, so, like, trying to run a handful of 2x4s more than a handful of miles down the road, it just becomes unprofitable. So having a lumber yard is really a kind of like a lost leader to sell all the rest of the stuff. And if all the rest of the stuff becomes very difficult to keep on the store and sell on a regular basis, then the hardware stores is really where they get, is where they profit from. If the hardware doesn't sell, and most likely they're going to have a difficult time operating in that fashion, which is going to make lumber distribution even more difficult. You have been missing in action or just quiet. Who's he talking about? All right. SoFi has decent interest rates. Credit unions tend to have better rates on all products as well. High yield savings accounts. I won't take a trade in oil. I may short natural gas, though. It goes back to set a potential double bottom. I have initial long via dust 5.5 calls for 10/18 expire. All right, your PO box, Simon. When are we going to see your next opening latest gifts? I checked the mail a couple weeks ago and I didn't have anything in there. But I'll go and check it. I'll see if I can check it tomorrow afternoon. Hey, there's Larry. Bro, it's been busy, bro. Digging these evening streams. Right on. All right, 5% T-bills. Thanks for the live stream tonight. Well, thank you, Deja. Deja vu, I appreciate you. Do you think that the price of lumber futures is correlated the impending commercial real estate crash, less availability of affordable homes because less jobs and people fired? No, because like I was able to call a lot out on the lumber market and I wasn't really following the commercial real estate at the time. So I don't know correlating the lumber futures to what's going on in the commercial real estate to be the same, even though what's going on in the commercial real estate could have a profound impact on rents and therefore, start moving more into the individual residential homes, which would then have more of an impact on lumber prices. But like that's kind of a daisy chain of effect of things happening there that I just don't know if I would necessarily correlate together, but be more of like a present, impact that is happening. What I honestly believe and think about, because I've had like there was a bunch of comments on today's video talking about lumber and housing and stuff, and there's so many people just have this way misunderstanding of how it is that these lumberyard or lumber mills operate. And like it's difficult to read through some of them and not sit there and just kind of correct everybody in their thinking because again, like I'm not trying to make everybody think differently. I'm just trying to share what it is that I see happening, what I feel is taking place, and sharing my opinion on that. And if I'm asked the question or whatever of something, I'm going to give a straight up honest opinion about it, whether it's an agreed one or not. So when it comes to like lumber and I think about what's happening right now, it really comes down to the fact that 500 per thousand mills are not profitable at that, and they have been in curtailment for a very long time, and the inventory depletion has been very profound in many ways. And it's not exactly headline news, but those who are in the game experience it. And I I don't know how else to put it, but that we are going to see at some point the builder demand increase. And it's not some magical event that's going to take place that's going to cause it to go up. There is going to be a, it's like the bullwhip effect for, it's increase, decrease, oversupply, undersupply, however you want to look at it. When you have a dramatic pullback in the amount of home starts and builder activity as we have experienced, there's going to be a backlash from that, or a return of movement into that position of building again. And the more likely that you have a condition in which that people are going to feel good about going out and buying a home according to the interest rates that are falling, like if that is anything that is profound, then the builders are going to get excited about that. And if you have a bunch of builders all at the same time or individual people wanting to start a home, then you're going to find an increase in demand in a position in which that there has been a very large pullback in inventory. Just because you go to the lumber mill or a distribution hub and you see a stack of lumber sitting there and you're thinking, man, no, there's plenty of lumber right here. That is that is a very that is a very difficult and misunderstanding way of truly seeing what is out there and available, because really lumber in motion is really the lumber that's available. And if you think about it, there is a constant stream of lumber that's being produced up in the Pacific Northwest and moving down into areas where there is no real lumber mill production thing taking place, but there's still the demand for lumber. And so it's a flowing process of constantly moving lumber that is showing the signs for demand. If it's just sitting there, stacks of it sitting there, that is not a sign that there is a high inventory. Right? Massive movement of lumber is showing a sign of inventory. I know it's hard to, and it's hard to like, so you think about it, like, unless it's in motion, right, then the mill can't get it away from the mill. Like, it's backed up if it's not in motion. So lumber standing is showing a sign of depletion. Lumber in motion is showing a sign of activity. Wow, look at all these comments. Okay, how long have I been at this? Hour and 10. Okay. Dollar can possibly decrease slightly if the Fed continues to cut rates. That could spike more lending and printing short term. No. I don't agree with that. I think balance sheet expansion would increase printing, but right now, even though there is moments in which that you do see like the M2 rising and stuff like that, they are more in a quantitative tightening position. And even with interest rate cuts, even if they were to do another, 50 basis point cut, they would still remain very restrictive monetary policy, not accommodating monetary policy. So to me, that's not the case. Like, that's not, like, it will be less restrictive, but it's still restrictive. And that's the opposite of money printer and stimulus and all the other stuff. So, I mean, then like I said, if you follow the neutral interest rate down, then they may not even be having any impact on the economy whatsoever. But the markets don't know that, right? The markets behave much differently. What did I get wrong? ADS? Huh. I guess. What are you guys all? Anyway, I guess not my business. You all talking? Okay. I I like people, just not all that much. Well, I like people great. Like, I like hanging out with people just fine. It's like the issues that I was finding is that, like, I don't mind breaking away and going, like, hanging out at the bar, shooting pool, and just kind of being cool, but I can't do that on a regular basis because honestly, that's chasing pleasure, right? Hanging out, enjoying, doing all that other stuff, it's not a bad thing. It's not. It's not like, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I'm in a position in which I'm not, I'm trying to put myself in a position in which that I am more of the chasing of excellence on a continuous basis, because that's actually what I find pleasure in doing. And I know at a lot of times it ends up being a disconnect from a lot of things that are happening out there, especially with, like, hanging out, socializing with friends and stuff. But I did that a couple of times this last week. And to be honest with you, I felt like I thought about it. It was a fun time. Like, I enjoyed hanging out and talking, the conversation and all that other stuff. But really, I felt like I had deprived, not necessarily deprived. What is the word for it? Like, I didn't, like, it wasn't like getting a painful experience from it, but I felt like I wasted that time. That's what it felt like. It felt like I wasted that time. And that, like, even though it was an enjoyment, it was fun hanging out, socializing, and doing all that other stuff, what I gained for that going into the future was not a lot, right? I mean, maybe other than the opportunity to do it again, I don't know what it is that I would get for, benefiting my life, progressing, doing all that, growing as a person, and all that other stuff. I don't see it in doing that. And so, like, I actually felt that way about it. Like, after it was done, it was just like, oh God, I got to get back to work, and that's all right. Sadly, the only way soon out of the depression for all of us is decreasing the overpopulation by a lot. See, I don't believe that. Again, like, I don't believe that. I mean, taking this bigger external problem that is far beyond your control, and then limiting yourself to the depressionary impacts that are going to occur because of it, and then using your thoughts and imagination then to prove that point is going to not lead you into the subconscious behavior that then has money flowing towards you. That's not depressionary. That's like very like, very non-depressionary, it's like the opposite of that. So again, it's just like the thoughts and behaviors and actions and beliefs. I mean, if you believe that the universe is, if you believe that the environment provides no ability for you or anybody else to actually make it in this world, the people who don't believe that do make it, right? Because they don't have that thoughts and limitations. Man, I can't see anymore. I gotta. Simon, what kind of battery are you using in the Explorer? I don't know. A new one. I don't know what kind of battery it is. Let's talk about hoflation in dating market. Reed, that is see, again, you're, okay. Now, if this is your belief of what women are out there, how is it do you think your subconscious and behavior is going to be reacting to these women and that's going to be attractive? I'm just saying, I mean, hoflation, is that really like, is that a real thing? I mean, to be honest with you, women only react to the way that the men are actually behaving. Masculine, hard, strong, confident, men don't get treated like shit. Right? They got way, way more going on in their world than to let some woman actually control anything about what it is that they got going on. Right? There's no such thing as hoflation. There's lack of masculine men. That's what's going on. I see it all the time. The beta behavior that comes out is just like women do not find that shit attractive. They'll be friends, right? They love that out of a friend, but they do not find that to be attractive behavior. There is no hoflation out there. That doesn't exist, right? That's your mindset. That's thou control and force you into believing that there is some sort of thing wrong with women out there or anything. It's not, right? It doesn't have anything to do with this. Society has screwed up the way that people think. It's just like there's two energies out there. There's masculine energy, there's feminine energy. You behave in masculine energy, she behaves in feminine energy. Everything works out well, right? It's the natural occurring feelings that people want to have. And it doesn't matter male or female, right? It doesn't matter if it's two males, two females. It's the energies that are coming from it, all right? You got masculine energy, you got feminine energy. And those two combine to have a symbiotic relationship. It's that easy. It's not that hard. I mean, there's like, I find it like very, how do I say? I mean, it's like, there was a time when I probably would have agreed almost with something of that kind of idea, this whatever the definition of a hoflation would be. I don't know what that is. Right? There might have been a time when I would have said something like that, being very ignorant in the idea of what it is that is occurring out there. Right? I don't like understanding more of what it is that I have seen out of not only my own relationship with my wife, but then the relationships that I've seen within many friends. Like I have been with my wife for 30 years. There's like, we have experienced a lot. And what I see a lot of times happening out there from from many couples when they break up, I'm thinking, that's what you broke up over? That? Like, did you guys not promise to stick it out with each other forever? Right? And that's what you broke up over? That's not promising to stick it out forever. You all compromised and agreed to and did all kinds of stuff that then eventually demoralized yourself, took your character out, pushed you into behaviors in which that you were not truly, acting in accordance to what it is that you really felt, right? And then everything fell apart. I wonder why. And I think about that when it comes to most people. when they were just understand that everybody has a position in this world. It's not a matter of being submissive, right? There's people out there who are going to be leaders. There are people out there who are going to follow and help those leaders provide what it is that they need in their world, right? Symbiotic relationship here. It's not a good or bad, evil versus this or anything else going on out there. It's like all that stuff doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know? When I look out there and I think about what it is that people are looking for as far as like getting into a relationship, I look at women say, oh, I want the man to be 6 feet tall or taller, $100 million and fit like you wouldn't believe and got all kinds of social status and on and on and this going on and on and on and on and on. And then yet I see women hooking up with ugly dudes who seem to have no real like motivation in life, doing all kinds, and I look at that and I'm thinking, he's not rich. He's not good looking. He doesn't have a whole lot going on. What is it that she's finding attractive in this dude? Oh, that's right. Because he's actually a masculine dude who's confident about what it is that he is doing in his world, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And that's what is really attractive, because it's masculine energy and she gets to be in the feminine energy, and that works swimmingly. All right. And to me, that's not that difficult to see. Jeez, I can't even see anymore. Okay, Bright Night Drive, $1.99. Kamala is my dream girl. That's why I'm voting. Yeah, I guess everybody has their type. I guess, right? I do not find that attractive at all, man. Like, there's nothing about, like, Alright, my ex is my best friend and it works great. See, deja vu, that's what ends up happening, right? You guys are probably friends, but it's hard to be like, I'm friends with my wife. We're good friends. We've been together for a long time. Like, I don't know anybody else as much as I know my wife, right? But it's like, I think about my friends. I don't think about my wife like that. Not like, she's not on the same level as my friends. If she was my friend, she wouldn't necessarily be my wife. And that's kind of weird to say, right? But it's not weird to say I don't think about my wife the same way I think about my friends. I think about her much differently. Okay? And so I think that's what ends up happening with a lot of people, is that they end up with their friend. Which seems reasonable, seems right. We get along so well. We like each other. We talk about deep things. We, have all this, connection and stuff like that. But yet somehow it just doesn't quite work. Huh. Again, I have a tendency to believe that it's the energies that everybody was carrying at the time. Their subconscious thoughts, their actions, their beliefs, their behaviors. You be the husband, you be the man, you be the leader, you be the, the confident one, you be the, the one who's shown it all. She gets to be on the feminine side. She gets to be the nurturer. She gets to be the one who's taking care of, the sick kids and happy birthday parties and all the other stuff. And it's just the energy that goes with it, right? You share in some of the responsibilities, but for the most part, you both have your positions. But when we're friends, we're kind of equals. Doesn't really work that way. All right, $5. Angry Capitalist, UE. Thoughts on the current neutral rates and where it may go while the Fed funds rate is still in restrictive territory? Well, that's the thing. It's hard to talk about the neutral interest rate and not have like a very constant understanding of where it is, because there is no way of knowing where the neutral rate is. The neutral rate is an estimate coming from the Federal Reserve called R star. And there's several different estimates of where R star is. And now when you hear from the Federal Reserve, some officials will say it's at like 2.5%, maybe 2.7, whatever, somewhere around there. There's other estimates of saying that it's at 1.5%. Right? So which one is it? Nobody really knows exactly where the neutral rate is. And so without knowing what the neutral rate is, but just kind of know the direction in which that it is heading, I think that is more important. So if you go and you look at what it was that the neutral interest rate was previously to, say, this moment, comparatively to like prior to the COVID, all right? So prior to COVID, it was very low, close to zero. Estimates somewhere between 0 1.5%. As COVID, pandemic, inflation, all this other stuff started kicking in, you started seeing the neutral interest rate rise. Now, this was something that is going, like, nobody knew if it was going to continue to rise, if it was going to peak out and fall, if it was going to return back down to, something that we had experienced prior to COVID. Nobody knows where the neutral rate was going to go. Now, most people think about the Federal Reserve's actions that had caused the neutral interest rate to rise, between the Fed and the government and all that other stuff, okay? The fiscal, responses, the monetary policy responses. A lot of people look at that and say, okay, this is what caused the neutral interest rate to rise, which does make a lot of sense. Right? That it would, elevated inflation expectation, all this expansionary efforts, people demanding higher returns on their capital, it would pull the neutral interest rate up. That makes a lot of sense. And, at least when I say it out loud, it seems logical. Now, what I have to remember, though, is that there was three main global trends that were responsible for the bulk of the decline in the neutral interest rate. And those three trends, which is demographics, older population, and lower birth rates, which hasn't gone away. The slowdown in global growth, which had been fairly dramatic around the world, right? That, that it has been a fairly dramatic slowdown in global growth since the COVID, so that hasn't gotten any better. And then the last is the wider wedge between safe and liquid assets like U.S. treasuries and corporate debt. Now, I have to think about interest rates coming down and whether or not that's going to shrink that wedge or widen that wedge. And I would only assume it's going to widen the wedge. Now, to me, when I think about those three issues, that was the major bulk for the decline in the neutral interest rate, then it's those three things that are continuing today that would now have the neutral interest rate returning back to normal of what we had experienced prior to COVID. I don't know if that's normal, but what we had experienced before, which was, again, 0 to 1.5%. So if all the inflationary pressures that we had experienced in the past may have lifted the neutral interest rate, it wasn't permanent. It was temporary, because what was really causing the neutral interest rate to come down is still quite prevalent within the economy. So in my opinion, we're probably going to go back towards closer to zero than we are going to stay elevated towards the 2.5% or even maintaining that. I think it's on a trajectory of dropping. Right. Does that make sense? And so therefore the Fed would have to cut rates and cut them dramatically in order just to stay in lockstep, just to keep from the economy becoming restrictive or overly restrictive if the neutral interest rate is continuing to fall further away from the Fed funds rate. That's the way I see it. I don't know if it's all explained right, but I was trying to make sure that I was getting it out clearly. That's why I was stuttering there. All right. Okay. All right. Bingo hider, keep the state out of it. Truth be told, I don't think you get it. Okay. All right. What is it? F the Fed. Okay. I have girls, no diapers for me. Just find a child Roth IRA. Oh, as far as getting them set up with investments, mood lighting. Yeah, I know, right? I don't have my deal here. Hello, UE. My internet blew itself up. Oh, what's happening, Cody? Man, it's great to see you here. Do you think Cook Dollar will weaken against other currencies in the short term. What, the dollar itself weaken against other currencies? Well, I mean, when I hear about other countries, like the Federal Reserve has, as far as I can see, has no real intent on weakening the currency going into the future. Like everything is a restrictive monetary policy, quantitative tightening. I don't see anything that says, hey, man, we're trying to stimulate. Like, I don't see that happening. I see him trying to be less restrictive. So, like, I don't see a weakening dollar, like, not occurring yet. So, like, to say, do you see one coming in the future? It would be like, well, I would have to see some economic changes taking place that would then have the Federal Reserve being more concerned about trying to stimulate than trying to restrict, because they're very much in a restrictive economy right now, or restrictive monetary policy. Even though it doesn't seem that way with all the interest rate cuts. The contract would have made my life easier, but I was against it. Having a child is a commitment for me. Absolutely, it is. You know how it's hard, right? Like, the more I realized, it was just like, man, I really wanted to raise my kid in the neighborhood that I grew up, at the school that I went to, and this was important to have this going on. Man, like, for people who don't have kids, I don't understand how come they ain't just rocking it. Like, you don't have the responsibility of another human being in your life, and you're bitching and complaining about not being able to make it in this world? Are you serious? You have no other responsibility but for yourself and your own actions, and you can't figure this out to back off on pleasurable experiences and chase the excellence? I know it ain't easy, damn. All right. I mean, I don't have any education. I don't have any other skills out there other than what it is that I picked up and learned along the way. And this is hard, right? This isn't easy at all. But I'm loving the ride. I mean, I'm absolutely loving it. And, I could see where struggling every single day and having kids in your life and struggling would probably want to be one of the most painful experiences, watching and having kids in your life, having to go through that. I'm hoping, like, for me, myself, like, I could live in my car. People tell me I live in my car all the time. I could. Like, I would. If I could earn as much money as I do now and live in my car, I would. But raising kids in a house with their own room, in a neighborhood with friends, in a school that is there that they go to from kindergarten till graduating high school, being able to do that, man, I will sacrifice any new car. I will sacrifice everything so that Freddie and Matt can enjoy that. And when they're out there living their life and figuring it out as an adult, I can let all that go. I can let it all go because I really don't care. That having a house in my life, being the property owner, all that other stuff, it doesn't inspire me to do more like that. What inspires me to do more is putting out videos on this channel and trying to, communicate what it is that I see happening out there. That inspires me, and by doing that, I'm able to provide this for my family. This is like the most amazing experience for me. Yeah. I'm having trouble seeing, guys. Do I have glasses in here? Is this gonna work? Oh, that's a little better. Okay. Yui has mugs for sale. Maybe I can use them to create my own mugs. You can go to Teespring and design your own mugs. That's where those ones come from. You just go to Teespring, set up an account, design your mugs. Everybody should go buy a mug and a hat and a t-shirt. All right. No, that's BS. I worked with dads my whole life. I don't make them any better promises. All right, that's what's great about the trust. The trust owns everything so it's settled no matter. I dug your recent video with the one rental at a time. Yeah, with Mike Zuber? Absolutely, man. I love Mike. He's a great dude. You know, he really, I think, honestly wants to see people succeed in to the best of their ability. And I think he really thinks and feels that everybody is going to, can have a shot at it. Like, I mean, he talks to me, he's like, man, let's build up the middle class again. Let's figure out how to, do that. And I'm thinking, man, the economic forces that I understand and the theories that I know tells me that ain't gonna happen and that I have to figure out a way around it. But he wants to figure that out. Like I give it to him, man. Like he was just like, no, I think I can do it. And in his mind and in his efforts and everything that he's doing out there, he's gonna make that happen. So man, I give more power to him. All right, UE hoodies are great. Yeah, thank you, Deja Vu. All right, people have the schools and friends to raise their kids and expect them to not be peer pressured. Well, you know what's funny is that I think a couple of things about school and peer pressure and what that actually does because you know when you're older and you have bad behavior, nobody tells you. Right? They just let you exist in your bad behavior. Nobody tries to correct it or nobody says anything about it. And if you do find out about it, you feel like, well, they just hate me or whatever, and you just kind of blow it off, but it doesn't really correct the bad behavior. Little kids will snap bad behavior right out of another kid. They will make fun of them. They will do all kinds of stuff to correct the bad behavior that is going on amongst them. And it's weird. It's not always good either. But what I'm saying is like you're acting goofy and weird. The other people around you will say, hey, you're acting goofy and weird. Right? You can't be doing that because you look goofy and weird. But if you're older and you're an adult and you're acting goofy and weird, people just kind of have a tendency to stay away from you and let you continue on with your goofy, weird behavior. Right? So being in school does have that little thing going on there that actually corrects the bad behavior when it comes to being in social environments, learning how it is that boys and girls communicate with each other. That happens in an extreme way at school. But if you don't experience that and you get older, then you end up suffering the consequences of not understanding how that communication really goes down. Yeah. You end up in friend zones and then wondering why relationships don't work out. It's just like, again, you learn that stuff in a very profound way when you go and like at school, when you have that kind of, massive social interactions. I went to a really small school. You have to think, like my graduating class was 32 people, right? The entire high school had like a little over 200 students in it, I think. All right, my kids have made my life so much better. I agree, all-nighter. Like, I don't even know. Like, I know I wouldn't be doing anything if it wasn't for my kids. My kids motivated me to do better. Like, literally motivated me to become a better person. If I didn't have my kids, I wouldn't have done it. They taught me. They were my best teachers. But they were the best teachers. All right. Nice reading. See that? All right. No, Django, written and conducted as written, but does not need to be filed and is beyond subpoena. Zuber is the tide that wants to rise everyone's boat. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Josh. All right, watch Susie Omen on the list you need. Buy NVIDIA for the rest of the year, get rich. Kids are the greatest time in the human being's life. Cats and dogs can't replace that. A living trust. One can do it themselves or have a lawyer do it for you. There's so many kinds of trust, kind of like a buffet that you can pick and choose what you want. Just a few principles, but principles must be followed. Hey, thank you very much, PK. I don't know if it's Palms. How do I say your name? All right. For the 10, I really appreciate you, man. UE, the Fed is is the Fed behind the curve? Are they getting cold feet? Peter Lynch invests what you don't need to take out. Invest what you don't need to take out. Asian currencies gained versus USD as investors losing faith in the U.S. economy. Thanks. Okay, no, I don't think investors are losing faith in the U.S. economy. And here's the biggest one that you can go and find this out. Just type into the Google search U.S. Treasury holdings, foreign holders of U.S. Treasuries, FRED, the Fred chart. You're going to see there is more holding of U.S. Treasuries now than in any time in U.S. history. That means that foreign holders do not see that the Federal Reserve or the U.S. government or anything going on in the U.S. economy is about ready to fail, or else they wouldn't be holding those U.S. Treasuries. But they are holding on to them in a very profound way, more now than any time in history. So I don't see that being the case where there's going to be like, how did you put it? Currencies gained over the USD as investors losing faith. That's it. Are the U.S. are investors losing faith in the U.S. economy? And I just don't see that, not when there's that much demand and holding of U.S. Treasuries. Now, is the Fed behind the curve? Absolutely not. They are not behind the curve because they are achieving exactly what it is that they had said that they were trying to achieve, which is inflation that is moderately above 2% for some time. Now, what that means is anybody's guess. That is going to be reevaluated here at the end of this year, and they are going to come out with a new projection on what it is that they are looking for out of the economy, out of their monetary policy for the next 5 years. And as far as the makeup strategy, I believe that they have been fairly successful at that. You're seeing inflation falling. Now, I find it kind of amusing, but then also very telling that Michelle Bowman is now trying to put out communication about how inflation could be coming back, how inflation may not be as far down and continuous as we are experiencing at this time. So now when I hear these kind of communications coming out there, it still leads me to think back to the credible threat theory and what it is that the Federal Reserve was attempting to do with inflation in accordance to the fact that they had a very low neutral interest rate, and everything seems to be guiding right in line with pretty much everything that they have communicated and what I believe is their strategy, which is, again, to try and keep an elevated inflation expectation persistently. Now, what we have learned is that in order to anchor long-term inflation expectation, the current inflation must not be set. Like they cannot have, how do they communicate it? That a constant inflation expectation could lead to a lowering of long-term inflation expectations, right? Which would pull realized inflation down and all that. If you have a wild current inflation, it's overinflation, underinflation, overinflation, underinflation. At that point, you can anchor the long-term inflation expectation at 2%, which seems so odd, right? You would think that you would not want volatility in the expectations of the current, like the short-term inflation expectation. The volatility in that is what anchors the long-term inflation expectations. So weird, right? But this is all communicated through the Federal Reserve. Like, this is how they figured this stuff out. If you go and you look at the makeup strategies, like, it's a 46-page document, and to be honest with you guys, there is so much in there that has like mathematical formulas and stuff, and it just seems so confusing. But the very first part of the document of the makeup strategies is pretty telling, right? I mean, it's pretty telling of how the Fed has basically lost the ability to stimulate the economy because of the lower bound of zero and the low neutral interest rate, and that asset purchases and forward guidance is their main policy tool, right? However, nobody really notices that because everybody's so focused on interest rate adjustments, because that's part of the forward guidance. That's part of the credible threat theory, is to make sure everybody is focused in on those interest rate adjustments, because the communication about those interest rate adjustments is what gets people to behave in a way that then impacts the economy, as if the Federal Reserve had cut rates. Like, think about all the information that's being spread right now. People think that there's stimulating economy coming with the lowering of interest rates. I don't see it that way. All I see is restrictive economy. No matter how I look at it, it's a restrictive economy. But you don't really see that communicated out there that much. All right. Thank you so much for the 10, man. I appreciate you. All this support for this channel, man. Everybody is just like, I come out and I'm being honest with you guys, and I tell you stuff like the whole relationship and communications and stuff like that between men and women, this is just my own experiences, right? From the things that I've experienced and stuff like that. When it comes to the economic information, I really, honestly, this is the way I feel about it. This is what I see happening going on out there. And I know that internalizing this information has definitely helped me out, like has put me in a much better position. And the amount of people who have come to me and said, hey man, thank you so much for putting out these videos. I was able to understand a lot more clear, had better, understanding of what it was that I was doing when I was, going to sell my house or buy a house or start a business or whatever it was that's going on out there. Thank you. Thank you for all the support for the channel. Thank you for all these super chats. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you for sharing the videos, and thank you for being here. Like, I cannot thank you guys enough. And, sometimes I say stuff that may not necessarily be agreeable, or you may not even share the same opinion, or might even think I'm nuts, but, we're still here. We're still having the conversation, and, and again, this is my honest belief and understandings, You say your wife is an expert at finding the food deal. I don't know about an expert. She doesn't really get paid for it, but okay. And preserving surplus. Yeah, would love to see maybe a second channel explaining these techniques, recipes, and methods. Yeah, see, now I told her the same thing. Like, like even just as simple, like, because she would show me, she was like, hey, look what I got at the store for this and that or whatever. And she would have these like really good deals. And I'm like, if you were in the mindset of saying, like, just doing a quick video of like, oh, look what I found here. This is a great deal. Was able to pick up a bunch of them. And now I'm going to can it up. And you put that all into a video and you say, these cans of chicken cost me this much a piece, And then I think those would make great videos. Like, they're super informative. They're helpful. They would be entertaining. Like, I think it would fit all the criteria, right, for being a YouTube channel. Santis, I see kids naturally create a hierarchy in the playgrounds based on confidence and ability levels, all without outside organization. Perfect, all-nighter. That is a great way of looking at it, right? It happens naturally. It's a naturally occurring thing. Most people don't realize we've had the nature beaten out of us. Look, most men are not honest with themselves. Most men are not honest with themselves. They do not conduct themselves in the way that they are truly wanting to. They act in a way that they find other people would find approving. That nice guy syndrome has been beaten into them. It might have been from being in school and, shut up and fall in line and don't be the reason why everybody, or everybody else is going to suffer, and, all this other stuff. And they put all these expectations on these kids to perform and be a particular way. Now they don't know how to act because being themselves wasn't right. I know, I experienced this, right? This is like, when you grow up thinking that your behavior is incorrect, no matter what you were doing. Stop doing that. Stop bouncing around. Stop, stop talking. Stop whatever. Right? Why? What is it? What am I doing wrong? Kids who are really young and this happens, man, they have no other choice. They don't know. They got to seek approval. They got to seek survival, right? Okay, what is it that I need to do in order to make sure that I'm approved of, right? Because I don't want to be kicked out of this, unit. It's a survival technique. They have no other choice. They have to fall in line. You do this to a kid all their life, and they grow up, and one day they're looking out there, and they're like, am I doing it right? Am I doing this right? What do I need to do to make it right? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What is it? What I can change, right? And this ends up being their, what they live their life like, having no expectations of what it is that they are looking for, but living on the expectations of other people. And it's an unfortunate circumstances that I would probably say the majority of men face, because they're simply just not honest with themselves. If they sat down and said, okay, man, I don't like these particular things that are going on in my life, but I'm afraid to tell the people that. I'm afraid to tell them because I'm afraid that they'll get mad at me, and I'm afraid that they may find it disapproving. If that's the case, it's meant to be done. If you change and you find that you are doing things that truly are to you, and the people around you get mad, it's because they are used to you being a particular way. And now society is now conditioned you into behaving that way, because if you don't, they will not recognize who you are, and they are going to get mad about that. That's okay. Let them get mad. Let them enjoy you for you. And if they don't like you for you and your behavior as far as what you want to do with your life, not the expectations of somebody else, and they get mad at you for that, that's awesome. It means that you're growing. It means that you are becoming the real man. You're becoming the real person out there. Before that, you were faking it, trying to get other people's approval, trying to, win your parents' approvals, win your teachers' approvals, win your girlfriend's approval, win everybody's approval, Never once ever seeking your own. Right? The moment you let all that stuff go, says, man, I'm not going to do this for you anymore. I'm going to do this stuff for me. I'm going to figure out what it is that I want in my life. And you start showing the rougher edges around there, and you say, man, I don't care how rude or arrogant or whatever it sounds. I don't care. Right? That part is not part of my concern anymore. I'm not here to protect your feelings. I'm here to live the life that I truly want to. And you're going to find people will love you for it. They don't want to see you behaving like a little bitch. They want you to be behaving like the true man that you are. Right? Cowering down to somebody else's wants and needs and behaviors, no matter how angry they get, who cares, man? This is up to you. You got your own life. Everybody else out there has to exist around you. Right? And you're going to not behave in a fashion that is truly you. You're going to adapt to whatever situation happens to be there so that you can seek the approval of other people so they don't get angry with you. This is really the condition in which that you live your life. I mean, I know, I've done it. It was the problems that I was seeking. You let that stuff go and you start behaving and doing things that are truly what it is that you want in your life. Not bowing down to other people and saying, no, you need to behave this way or that way in order to make, for me to be happy, for them to be happy. Like, what about you, man? Your happiness is first. If you're not happy, nobody's going to be happy with you. So you have to enjoy your life for people to recognize, man, that dude's enjoying his life. That's attractive as hell, right? That brings in the positive energies. And that's all it comes down to. It's like most men most men are lying to themselves. They're lying to themselves every day. They don't want to tell, they don't want to say, they don't want to admit that they truly like that chick. They don't want to tell her. They don't want to tell, they're not willing to say it out loud. They're not willing to say, hey, like, I'm tired of this, this arrogant boss's behavior, and I can't handle it anymore. Instead, I'm just going to sit here and take it because I need to pay my bills. I need to make sure this person is happy, and all this other, like, you just take on all this weight. It's sad to see it. I see it every day. you know? And really, as my channel was growing, I was finding the ability to, like, break away from whatever it is that I wanted. If I wanted to quit my job, I could. If I wanted to quit YouTube, I could. If I wanted to do whatever, I could. If I could have done anything I wanted. Like, there was no more limitations to me whatsoever, but yet I was still seeking other people's approval. I couldn't, like, it drove me nuts. I found that other people around me weren't necessarily liking me that much, even though I was successful, nice guy, doing all kinds of things, right? Once you let all that go, you let it all go. It's like, man, I'm not seeking approval. I'm not seeking disapproval. I just don't care if you approve of it or not. That's not what I'm here for, right? Like, I can't make videos that everybody's going to like. I can't do that. There's no way. I can only make the videos that are honest from me, and then hope that the people who are watching the video can relate somehow. Find it somewhat inspirational. Find the information somewhat useful. Find it somewhat entertaining. That's it, right? I don't have any other expectations of that. And the more I kind of live that life and understanding of life, I find easier things happen. The connections are easier. People communicate easier. Everybody, everything is fine. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the things that you do in your life. There's nothing wrong with your thoughts. There's nothing wrong with your preferences. There's nothing wrong with any of that. People might say there's something wrong with it. Who are they? They ain't you. Who cares? They ain't living your life. If you prefer something different from what they think is your preference, screw them. It's not up to them to tell you what your preferences are. And that's what it comes down to, is that, most people will never figure that out because they have been conditioned themselves to say, man, I will just have to suffer the consequences of what I'm in right now for the greater good. Right? No, man. They don't want you to do that. Your family doesn't want you to do that. Your friends don't want you to do that. Nobody, the universe doesn't want you to do that. Nobody wants you to do that. The only people who want you to do that is the person that is in your head telling you that they're going to get mad at me if I do this. And if they do get mad at you, good. It's showing that you're growing, getting into the person that you really are. They will come around. If they truly love you, they will recognize who you really are. And they'll say, yeah, that's you now. The person that we experienced before, that wasn't the real you. That was you faking it. That was you seeking approval. That was you keeping from rocking the boat. How many people we have watching right now? Man, all these people watching. Well, you guys like this? Is this should we talk about economics? All right. Famous last words. Before you go to hell, selfishness seeks him for long life. All right. No Pornhub. No, none of that stuff. All right. How about the creator of you? Vintigago got it right. Balance. The universe. As Ricky Nelson once said, you see, you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Are you going to really, you think about it. When you see somebody out there who's just, like, enjoying themselves doing it, man. They're in, like, some dude who's reeling in a fish. Yeah, woo, what's going on, man? You feel that energy. You're looking at him, man. He's in it. He's happy. He can care less about the rest of the world. That is awesome, right? That is awesome. You hear somebody else complaining, it was just like, oh man, I had to work all day. I got these bills piled up. I got a depressive situation with my wife. I got these kids who are all on drugs. I got all this stuff. And you're sitting there and you're just like, dude, man, I can't take this, right? Like, none of that is attractive. So now you sit there and you look at the guy who says, I'm tired of all this. I'm going to get this whole stuff in line. I am tired enough. They're going off in the rehab. I am going to fix this business up. I'm going to make this happen. This deterioration of my life is not going to take place any longer. I'm going to start painting the house. I'm going to, and you see somebody actually progressing through that. And it was just like, man, their life was shit, but look at them go, man. That is so awesome. Right? Their life might not even gotten any better, but just the literal fact that they have changed the way that they are complaining about things to think, okay, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate it like I was. Right? All of a sudden, it becomes attractive and good behavior again. Like, or good, good or bad, whatever that means. Yeah. Simon, in leading a sales team, having a man about to have a newborn is a guaranteed 24 in sales. 2 to 4 times in sales. Yeah, a motivated, yeah. And they show up on time. They show up every single day. They'd never call in sick. Right? They don't, because they see it beyond themselves. Right? They're like, man, I got more responsibility than what it is that I have going on. Right? It's just like for myself, I have more responsibility than what I have going on for myself. I have much more, a life to deal with here. All right, I got 99 problems, but a bill ain't one. Yeah. Make intentional decisions, don't go with the flow. You notice every American tragedy happens to cover up a Fed mistake. The conspiracies. What Fed mistake? I go back 20-year speeches, and over the last 20 years, I see a very welled out, orchestrated. It was conducted very, very much in accordance to what it is that they had planned on doing. I don't see the mistake. Like, I could see where people made a mistake about what they had interpreted about the Fed or what they think the Fed should do. But as far as like the Federal Reserve making a mistake, I don't see it. It seems to be a very well played out plan for over 20 years now. Like, I don't see it. I don't see the mistake. It looks like this was very well intentional the entire way, including the great financial crisis, which they knew was coming back in 2002, with Ben Bernanke talking about how to prevent deflation from ever occurring in a dramatic fashion. Again, talking about the gold machine, massive asset purchases, balance sheet expansion. Like, they knew there was going to be a moment in which that the Fed funds rate was going to zero and that it wasn't going to stimulate the economy anymore. And it was way ahead of the great financial crisis. Well planned, thought out, and essentially pulled off. No mistakes. They're not making mistakes. Theirs is planned out. Everything that they are doing is planned. Right? Now, there might be some situations in which that an interest rate adjustment or the amount of it or something of that might be fine-tuned dialing. But overall, the general outcome of what we have going on right now, I think, was very much in line with what the Federal Reserve has been doing for the last 20 years. There's no mistake. This is done on purpose. Although, by thinking it's a mistake, it actually benefits the Fed, because they would want you to think it's a mistake, because, the less you know about what they're doing, the better for them. And thinking that it's a mistake totally works in their favor. And I'm not trying to be offensive or mean or anything else about it, but that's really the honest way I see it. They needed an inflation expectation that was elevated. Every single person who was screaming hyperinflation totally just handed all the benefit right to the Federal Reserve. They sucked it up. They're like, God, inflation expectations are so elevated. Look at us. They were giving high fives in the back. They're like, woohoo, look at us go. 1913, the plan's been coming together for a long time. Banksters thinking 500-year plans, not the 5-day paycheck to paycheck plan. Yeah, that's very true. You think about it, like anybody who was ever around at the conception of the Federal Reserve and implementation and conduction of the start of the Federal Reserve is all dead and gone. All those people are gone. Yeah. Have you read Satoshi Nakamoto white paper? Have you gone any deeper? What do you think about the underlying principles and ideology, possible applications and implications if when adopted? Here's the problem with Bitcoin or any fixed currency, whether it's gold or Bitcoin or anything else, that it's not going to be the common currency. It can't be, right? Well, it can be. I shouldn't say it can't be. It can be. It will have very profound impacts to the economy that I don't think people are necessarily prepared to deal with. And part of that is that if you have a limited currency, if you have a limited currency and you have an industrious people, they are going to hoard that currency. They are going to rise the luxurious livings. They are going to separate the rich from the poor, and eventually they will destroy their manufacturing base. They will fall into poverty and misery as they redistribute that money back out to the rest of the world. That will happen to any country, anywhere. There will be massive wars, massive famines, massive depressions, massive, stock market swings. There will be no stability whatsoever. There will be no way of really preventing the business cycles from occurring. Now, I'm cool with that. I am so cool with it. I am good. Like, let's do it. I am ready. But most of the people are going to suffer misery and pain and suffering on account of it. Like they will not go out very well for them, especially everybody who has been conditioned to deal with government intervention. So fiat currency, and I don't agree with this either, right? Just to let you all know, like I'm not saying it's better or worse. All I'm saying is that with fiat currency, at least you have the ability to smooth out that business cycle. And when you have depressionary effects that are hitting the economy, at least you have the government stepping in there to keep the people somewhat happy. I don't know if that's even the word. Unfortunate consequences from that, massive separation between the rich and the poor, right? And it's going to occur. What did all night? Hold on one second, guys. Give me a second here. Thank you, All Nighter. I'll go check it out right now. All Nighter sent me a private message saying that I had a super chat come in. Yes, we did. Thank you. Gosh, what is that? I'm gonna grab my glasses here. Societal. Oops, shit, I can't see. I got fingerprints all over them. Man, the later on it gets in the day here, the worse my eyes get. Okay. Societal evolution failed. Is that what it says? Get ready to move out of blue cities to live in multi-gen, irrational Western society is going to have a hard transition back to basics and more third world. Okay. Thank you very much for the $4.99. I appreciate the super chat, man. No, like I don't think the blue states have anything to do with it. Honestly, like I know everybody will roll their eyes and all that other stuff. Okay, great. The unfortunate consequences of new money that comes in and drives the massive, like you think about it, when you have a massive separation between the rich and the poor, this is the type of environment that it's going to look like. Okay. Now it happens to end up being this blue state, democratic, liberal nation, whatever that comes from it. But that's not due to the fact of we having a liberal nation. It's the fact that we've had new money pouring into this place, separating the rich from the poor. That's really what I honestly see. Now, as a result of that, it ends up being, this liberal nation appearing thing. And although a lot of people here do share that feeling, and I could see a lot of blame that could be thrown around, I look at the homeless population here that in my area, and especially in the Portland area, I look at the way that they are trying to deal with it. It is absolutely horrifying on how much money is being dumped into something that is resulting in very little change to the outcome. So it's like a complete waste of money, as far as I can tell. It's all of it is an effort to try and do good. And I think about it, really what it comes down to is that these people who have the money are tired of looking at the homeless people and they want them to go away. And they're trying to throw money at it, which makes the problem even worse. So, whether or not it's a liberal nation in their views or whatever that's going on, I don't see it that way. I see it as new money that's pouring in, because that's really what is separating the rich from the poor. And now, if you didn't have a separation that was taking place, then you probably have a middle class, working hard, producers, savers, and generally you're going to find that probably in the more Midwest areas where that's what they do, is produce and save. But out here on the coast, we don't have production. What we have is ports where new stuff comes in and money pours in, and Hollywood where people retire and stuff like that. There's no production, right? I mean, California has a huge agricultural base. Yeah, there's a lot of production. Oregon up here has a huge, forestry base. We got a lot of logs and fishing and all kinds of stuff that we produce. Huge grain export, right? Agricultural products are massive here in our area. Doesn't nearly compete to all the rest of the crap that comes in as far as new money. And that's what I see as the problem. Like, liberal nation, Republican nation, doesn't really matter, or conservative, it doesn't, like, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to create a situation in which that you are going to provide the ability for the middle class to grow again. That's not feasible. What you have is a separation that has taken place. You're going to find that there are some areas that are holding on to it, showing how awesome they really are for what it is that they can do. But just like me, in the retail space that I am in, it is slowly dwindling and it's going to go away. And you're going to find an entire nation that is acting like these liberal nations, like the liberal areas. Think about it. It's like, anytime you ever have a dive into luxuries, people want to behave however they want. Okay. And that's the problem with a lot of the different belief systems that are out there, especially those who come from like the Democratic liberal side to the conservative Republican side, is that on the liberal side, they want you to think, like, they want you, like, I guess how it is that they want you to live however you want, but tell you how to think. The conservative side wants you to think however you want, but tell you how to live. So which one of those is right? Now, I understand that if it happens to correlate with your feelings and your beliefs, that it's okay. But when it doesn't, now it's something wrong or bad. I mean, these are literally the two ways it goes about. So if you have a situation in which that people are living however they really want, but then trying to control the way they think, like, what kind of outcome would that look like? People living however they want, but being controlled on how they think. How about controlling the way you think, or allowing you to think however you want, but controlling the way you live? Which one of those is working for you? All right. See, somewhere in the middle of all that is the true libertarian mindset, where it takes the best of both worlds and denies the worst. So most people don't realize that if they look deep down inside, they are actually truly a libertarian at heart. That they really want to live and think however they choose. But yet one side or the other wants to pull your thoughts and beliefs and actions to one side or the other. I don't want you thinking for me, and I don't want you telling me how to live. Right? How hard is that? Well, it's pretty difficult if you don't have that option. Everybody wants to be, are you voting for him? Are you going to vote for her? Are you going to be this? Are you going to be that? You live in this state because this is all fucked up for you? That's not the way it goes down. That's not it. I don't even think about politics in my life. There is nothing out there that I look at that says, hey, man, it's the way that they voted, and that's the reason why all this stuff is all messed up. Okay, that's fine. I didn't, it ain't messed up for me. I'm still making money. I'm figuring it out. Like, I mean, I live in a nice, clean, friendly, happy area as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any issues. Like, everybody says, oh, man, it sucks up there. I don't know why. I think it's a beautiful place. What is that? El Ray, thank you so much for the $4.99, man. I did say the F word. I'm sorry, deja vu. I'm trying not to cuss too much, but I'm kind of getting tired here and I'm slurring my words a little bit. The dollar won't become worthless. I agree, Cody. I mean, it's gonna not. I mean, it's over time, it's going to lose its value. Yes, and that is a feature within it that can be then used as a feature if you choose it to be. Most people think it's a consequence. And if you hold on to it for any length of time, it is a consequence. Right? But that's not the point of it. The point of it was to trade your goods and services to other goods and services. And to be able to have a currency that does that on a efficient scale like we have with the dollar, then the unfortunate consequence from that means is that you can't hold on to it for very long. And if you do, then you're going to suffer the consequences of a loss of purchasing power. There may be opportunities in which that you have buying opportunities, where it goes exactly the opposite, where you can pick up deals for a cheaper price. But over the long term, you just have to understand that it's just not going to be something that holds value. And to complain about that or to say that, it's a bad thing that's within it, well, that's the meaning you're giving it. And that's an unfortunate consequence, because really, if you use that feature to your advantage, you can do quite well. I mean, Mike Zuber talks about that all the time. Alrighty, guys. What time is it? It is 2 hours and 15 minutes into this, and it's like 8 o'clock. What is it? Almost 9 o'clock, 8:30. I can't even see the damn screen anymore. All right, I'm just gonna give it a couple of more comments, and then we're gonna call it quits for tonight, guys. We're already a long ways into this. All right, less people are gonna make money. The separation will get too much. That less than 1% of 1% will have the riches. Well, I believe that's correct, in which that, I don't know about the percentage part of it, but that there's going to be ever more separation between the rich and the poor. I believe that is going to continue. But as far as less people making money, I don't believe that. I think that people can make I think that there's going to be more money pouring into the system in order to try and get money velocity going, that they're probably just literally, they won't have to make it. They're just going to shove it right into our pockets, right into our bank accounts. They're going to attempt to produce a consumer in order to keep the system, going. So I don't see it getting harder. I see it getting easier. I think I think things are just going to become easier to acquire. But as far as like having it in such a way that is just like, hey, we have this strong middle class going again, I don't think that's going to be the case. Because really what it comes down to is that we are a very wealthy nation. And what is wealth? Food, conveniences, and pleasures of life. Now, take the very first one, food, right? If you have access to food, then you're probably going to be fairly wealthy. And what does everybody complain about when it comes to inflation? How much food costs? That is the sign of wealth. If food is a complaint to you, then you're probably not wealthy. If you are not complaining about food, then you are fairly wealthy. Food, conveniences, pleasures of life. So it really comes down to food. Just think about that, right? If you are complaining about it, if you are in a situation which is damaging, like you cannot afford to eat and stuff like that, that is the obvious sign. And everybody on the lower end of things is going to find themselves in a position in which that they are going to have trouble eating. That's why they're getting the UBI. That's why they're going to get the assistance. And it's literally going to be handed to them. Before, people could grow their own food. In fact, there was a time in this nation, 95% of the people grew their own food. It was a very wealthy nation. If you think about food, conveniences, and wealth, in food, conveniences, and pleasures of life, the number one thing, food, they produced it themselves. Now we're such a wealthy nation that less than 5% of the people produce 95% of the food for the rest. And again, where does the wealth, right? There's just a handful of people who are actually producing that of what you can consider wealth, which is the food. And how much access do you have to it? Well, in this country, you have a lot. It's hard. right? Because that is the sign of wealth. If you have a difficult time acquiring it, it's, again, that's one of the obvious signs. So what are they going to do? Here's some EBT. Here's all the stuff. We're a wealthy nation. Eat. Right. Invest in silver. Hey, my man Cody, right? Invest in silver. There is no silver to invest. And invest in silver, mine to invest in more silver. Cody, 2024. See, like my man Cody, he is all about that silver. Yeah. I hate to say it, but Kamala will be president. Why do you hate to say it? Why would you hate to say it? Don't hate to say it, right? I mean, if you think Kamala should be president, just say, hey, I'm happy to say it. Kamala's going to be president. I mean, I'm not personally, but, because I can care less. But if you're like, if you don't hate to say it, man, just say it. The powers epi will do any and everything to prevent Trump from getting into the White House. I mean, no, they won't. All right? No, they won't. Trump is not the savior. Trump had his chance to do what would have been right for what we here on the macroeconomic scale would have said to be the correct thing to do. But he didn't do it. What he had done is he used his position to elevate himself even more. And he was pissed that the Federal Reserve would not accommodate him to be even more powerful in that positioning of his separation of him and his crony buddies away from all the rest of the poor people out there. That is my honest belief out there, because if you listen to his own statements, the Federal Reserve should be printing money. This is what he said. The Federal Reserve should be printing money and taking interest rates negative. Give me some of that. The rich people in the room know what I'm talking about. That's what he said. He is not a friend of the common, everyday, average person. There is nothing he can do that is going to bring back manufacturing. There's nothing he can do to bring back middle class. There is nothing he can do to fix the situation. And by convincing people that he can do it, he is convincing people of an absolute lie. There is nothing that can be done. The separation between the rich and the poor will grow ever more persistent going into the future. Must be recognized that that is the case. You're not going to be able to vote for anybody who can change that. And anybody who says that they can fix that problem is lying or delusional. Both. All right? Go vote for anybody you want. It doesn't matter. At this point, it really does not matter who it is that you are going to vote for. Watch what they do and act accordingly. That's all there is that you can do. Because that, putting the expectation on an individual out there to then create a situation that is going to work for you, right? That is going to end up working for you is egotistical. That is very egotistical. To say, I need this, my life sucks, my business doesn't work, all this other stuff because of that president right over there. If that was a different president, I would be doing better. Everybody would be doing better. You would be doing better, right? That's egotistical. That is an egotistical thing to say. Because you don't see it any other way, then it couldn't possibly be any other way. Not knowing that during the time you are saying that, people are damn exploding in wealth and opportunity for themselves. But yet we're going to sit around and hear about how it is that the world is screwed up because of these particular people. All right, man, let your world suffer and the consequences of that. Okay. There's nothing. Kamala comes into president, she is not going to do anything that's going to be a benefit or damage to this economy that is anything different than what we are experiencing. Right? Oh, they might exasperate the efforts a little bit. They might show a big display of something, but it's not going to do anything profound. What we are on is a preset course that is going to go down in a very, how do I say it? Like a very one-way direction that it can go. Like, you cannot stop this separation. You cannot stop it from taking place. You cannot fix it. You cannot do anything that is going to change the way that it's going. There's only interaction with it. That's it. You know, I mean, you think that the separation is bad now, just give it another 20 years. It's going to be incredibly bad. It's going to get far worse than this. And the efforts that they are going to go through in order to maintain this system of whatever it is that we are experiencing now is going to look so different. Like, literally, in order to keep it together, they are going to force feed money right into the people. They have no other choice. The people will not be able to consume enough in order to provide the world with enough debt in order to have that stuff come into the nation. They are going to literally force feed us into being a consumer, because that's the only thing that the system can do. Right? If it can't get you to go out there and borrow money to buy the products, then it's going to force feed the money into you. And people are going to scream and talk about how awesome it is. And they're going to praise the elected leader who is ever in office when this takes place. And they're going to talk about how awesome they are. And then they're going to have all these statistics and all these people out there talking about how awesome it is for everybody. And then they're going to show for the next few years how awesome it is that everybody's getting these checks and being able to go out there and buy the basic necessities that they need. And they're going to brag it all up. And then that's going to be the carrot that they hold in front of you that makes you vote for them or whoever it is. Oh, you better listen to us. We're going to take away your UBI, or you better listen to us because we're going to increase it. And then they'll have you by the balls. You won't have any other choice at that point. And the people are going to beg for it. I mean, you talk about a new world order, central banker's wet dream. That's it. That's what we're going towards. It's pretty obvious to me. Like, I mean, I see that happening. And, like, I don't know, like, what it is that you can do. There ain't nobody you can vote for. There ain't nobody's going to change that. In fact, anybody you vote for is going to start leading us down that direction because they have no other choice but to go that way, no matter what they do. Right? Except for, you know, cause the people to suffer in misery and poverty and pain by churning off all the debt issuance and, you know, reeling in the all the extra spending that they're doing out there and around the world and all that other stuff, and start bringing all this stuff back into the homeland, which is going to be incredibly painful, right? And there ain't no politician who's going to get voted into office to do that. Not a single one. So to have any expectations that there's going to be an elected leader that comes in and says, hey, man, we're going to do things right, good luck. I don't believe it. And I'm not going to position myself to even, you know, entertain the idea of that. Like, I just won't. You know, I mean, hey, if they come in and do a great job, wonderful, man. Hey, great job, man. I'm glad I'm here. But I have very little expectations that they're going to do the right thing, you know, whatever that is, because the right thing isn't up to them. They don't get to do the right thing. I do. That's my job. I own that, right? They don't get to do the right thing. I get to do the right thing. They're going to do stupid things that I have to do the right thing on account of. Right? And again, like, just knowing that, you know, hey, if you do the right thing, great, man. I'm doing the right thing. You do the right thing. We're all doing the right thing. Awesome. But you're probably not going to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing because you don't do the right thing. That's the right attitude. Wow, look at all you people up in here. Deja vu. Okay, I want to vote for the FOMC board. There you go. See, now there you would get my vote. I would vote for the FOMC. Like, if I got to pick and choose who it is that is going to end up being on the FOMC, I think that is a worthy vote. I'm in agreement. Deja vu, that is the best comment that I've heard in a while about voting, is I want to vote for the FOMC. We should make up t-shirts. People would have no idea what the hell we're talking about. And you think about it, if the people could vote for the FOMC, how dramatically impactful and profound and empowering that would be. Like, I think that would have more power to vote for the members of the FOMC than voting for any president. Yeah, I am down for that deja vu. I agree. That is probably the best comment on voting that I've heard. All right, we need separation of money from government to be truly free society. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I agree that would create a more free society. It would create a more free market. It would create a more independent individual, not reliant on government. But again, we're going to suffer the consequences of that. We're going to suffer the consequences of the Cantillon effect. We're going to have the most industrious people hoard all the money, right? Because it's sound money and without government rule involved. And they're going to hoard all the money. They're going to deprive the people, and then there'll be a redistribution of wealth, after crash cycles. So I don't think that's a bad thing, but I look at it, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing either. I mean, if that's the way it is, then I'm down for it. I'm cool, but I don't believe that that's any better of a system than what we have now. So it's just better to figure out what it is that you need to do in the system that we do have instead of thinking that it could be a better way, because I just don't find it to be a better way anyway, right? The only better way is the way that you are dealing with it. That's the better way. All right. Me, I can't see nothing. All right. What do we got here? Larry Deja, I will buy some lotto tickets while I'm at it. Heard Powerball is at 223 million. Wow. Really? Jesus. $223 million. Man, that's a lot of money. I might buy a ticket for 223 million. All right. I'm not voting for either candidate. I don't take part in the slave suggestion box. Might as well write Santa a letter or hope for the tooth fairy to give me money. Maybe if Ron Paul's on the ballot. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same agreement. What is that? ZN? Is that what it is? ZN? I'm kind of in agreement on that. And I'm fortunate that I am in Oregon, because it doesn't matter. Like, living in Oregon, you have a mail-in ballot. So we fill out our ballot, we put it in an envelope, we put it in the mail, and it gets sent off. All the rest of the states, like, I don't know, there might be other ones that do mail-in ballot, but all the rest of the states generally count all their votes before Oregon does. Oregon has 3 electoral votes. So they have already called out the president. They have given their acceptance speech. They're like whatever. Everybody knows who the president is, and Oregon still hasn't declared what way they voted. So voting for president in Oregon is pointless. Like, there is literally no point to it. None. Like, our votes get counted last, and we don't have any difference in the outcome. So, like, whether we voted one way or the other makes zero difference when it comes to voting. So I feel fortunate in that sense that I don't care to vote, because it doesn't matter. No matter who I vote for, it doesn't make any difference in the outcome, which makes it nice, and I'm relieved of that pressure now, which is great. I did at a time would have voted for Ron Paul. And when I saw the Republican Party pretty much blackball Ron Paul out of debates and airtime and all the stuff that was going to give him more attention to become president, when I saw what they had done to him, I was like, dude, that's it. You guys have lost my trust. I will never support you guys. I don't support the Democratic Party either, but I will never. That was so damaging to me, in my view, in what it is that I saw going on, that I would never trust them again. And I don't, and I won't. Right? I don't trust either one of these parties, and I certainly don't trust the Republican Party. They screwed Ron Paul out of that. We could have had a decent president. We could have had somebody who was actually going to be profoundly impactful to the Federal Reserve and not just a bunch of hot air. which is exactly what Jerome Powell experienced from Trump was hot air, right? He didn't get damaged, he didn't get hurt, he didn't get influenced, he didn't do nothing, right? Nothing. Jerome Powell like looked at Trump and laughed in his face, right? And that's exactly the way I feel about it, even though really that's probably not the case either, because really I think those two were working in cahoots. I think they were buddies. In the background, it was like, high-fiving each other and pro wrestling type of shit. I can't see, guys. I'm going to have to go. All right. They used to not declare a winner until after all the polls close. They can close the polls. We're mail-in ballots, so we don't get our stuff counted for like days afterwards. I liked Ross Perot. I mean, I was pretty young when he was like out there campaigning, so I was still in high school and I wasn't really that privy to what was happening. All right. Good call, Wayne. What did Wayne say? Oh, that's right. Oh, where was he? Okay. The election for sheriff is really the most important in the individual. Oh, yeah. You're right, Wayne. Voting for sheriff, I think, and voting for a good sheriff of your county is super important. I used to know, I don't know the current county sheriff like on a personal basis, but I used to know Tom Bergen, who was an excellent dude. In fact, when 9/11 hit, he was one of the few county sheriffs who wanted to actually start up the local militia. And he got kind of in trouble for it a little bit, but he didn't care. That's the way he felt, and he was wanting to start up a local militia to protect our county. And I thought that was just beautiful. He's been on, Fox News and stuff like that for, talking about, I don't know, other things, but anyway, I thought he was a really good dude. Other people didn't really necessarily agree with him that much, but I thought he did great, and I wish I wish I was more connected like that with more of the law enforcement around here. Alrighty, guys, I'm gonna call it quits because I'm slurring my words and I can't talk anymore. So I think the 2.5 hour live stream in the night here has get some sleep. Yeah, I need to. Very cool. You got vote locally. Tax collection enforcement. Okay. I work with the state of Oregon. Have an adult foster care home with kids with disability. Wow, Kurt, you're quite the dude, man. I have to say, you are, Great chat. Thanks. Yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this one. I kind of went off deja vu. Thank you for the stars. I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. And I know I go off and I say some crazy wild stuff, but this is the honest truth, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and I'm not gonna tell you anything that, just because I think you want to hear it. I'm gonna tell you the way I think it is. And whether you agree with it or not, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your opinions. I appreciate everybody who's here and agreeing or disagreeing, having the conversation, trying to break this stuff down and understand it for ourselves. My views on politics, it might be very inaccurate. It might be very different from what a lot of other people are seeing out there. I've tried to condition my life so that I don't have that kind of involvement with it, but I do realize that a lot of people have, and that it's really important to them. I think this is most important. Like Deja Vu was saying, voting for the FOMC or paying attention to the like you can't vote for the FOMC, but if we could, that kind of paying attention to those people as opposed to everybody else, I think is more impactful and giving you the ability to make those better decisions for yourself based on what monetary policy is doing, because I think that is so much more important to our individual selves and the businesses that we start, the investments that we do, all that stuff. I think by following monetary policy, we can make really good, appropriate decisions in that fashion. Fiscal policy, understanding it is important, especially being in the business mindset and, conducting business. I can understand the fiscal policy, and understanding it is going to be really important, but the amount of garbage that comes out of Congress and Senate and all the government stuff that ends up clouding our minds and pulls us away from the ability to see how monetary policy really impacts our lives. And we end up taking all these other people and letting that impact our lives. We miss it, you know. And that's when I found that when I got politics out of it, or at least I set it off to the side far enough away that I could view the Federal Reserve without that influence to it, that's when I started making better decisions for myself. I was able to start investing better. I was able to, you know, start acquiring things in my life in a fashion that I thought, that I know is not only better for me but better for my family. And again, like, I don't think I could have necessarily done that if I kept incorporating like the issues that politics would bring to the table. Looking at monetary policy is almost in a fashion of like, we have no other choice, right? These people, we have a choice, we can vote for them, but monetary policy is being decided upon in a way that we have no other choice but to observe it for what it is and then act appropriately to what is appropriate to us. And I just don't see it any other way. Like, that to me is what got me to get out of the gutter and into the position that I am in now. And I'm hoping that I'll be in a better position, you know, 5 years from today. All right. You guys are awesome. I'm going to bail out though, because I'm just so tired and I can't see anymore. But I just can't help but to read a few more comments here. Converted to a big concrete box with water pumps. Some of you guys must be talking. Yes. Bear projects, huh? You make perfect sense. Thanks for your honesty. Yeah, you guys get it, man. I appreciate you listening, and like I said, I know I go off on some kind of wild stuff there occasionally, and I appreciate you guys sticking around to hear me out. And you know, whether you agree or disagree, you know, we're here trying to break this stuff down so that we can do this, you know. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. Uneducated econ. I can't even say it now. Uneducated economist. You guys let me know.